Welcome to a place for those in search of truth and conviction, a place where we discuss culture, politics, philosophy, and everything in between. I'm Luke, and I'm here with Russ. This is Hardly Strictly Politics.
Hell yes, dear listener. The HSP boys are back in the saddle once again for episode number 40. Thank you so much for jumping in the saddle with us. Sing this with us. This is 40. Proper middle age besets us as the HSP boys blaze a new trail into a new decade. 40 episodes later, and together with your humble trail guides, dear listener, we ain't going nowhere but forward together, growing stronger together. 2 separate continents, 2 separate countries, 2 separate adult beverages, just to make it fair, and 2 separate cups of coffee fee. 2 separate hangovers, dear listener. The HSP boys did some celebrating last night. We might just burn it down again today, dear listener, so pour one out with us and enjoy. 2 separate fact shamings, 2 separate wits, 2 separate trails to the same inevitable conclusion. 40 acres and a mule, 40 days and 40 nights, 40 days in the wilderness, 40 caliber bullet, America's top 40. 40 is the new 30, and most of all, dear listener, 40 ounces to freedom up in the house. And now we got HSP number 40. Can you believe it, dear listener? And you know what that means. That means we got 40 miles to ride on this trail today, right now. So let's not tarry. Let's saddle up and ride into HSP number 40, which is in the house, presently. Find us on Facebook at Zero Gravity Med. Same thing on Twitter at Zero Gravity Med. Send us email at feedback@zero-gravity-media.com. That's feedback at zero-gravity-media.com. Subscribe to us on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and TuneIn, all 4 under Zero Gravity Media. I actually got corrected on that last week, Luke. Feels bad, man. Anyway, more platforms are coming soon, dear listener. We'll tell you as we blaze new trails. Find us on YouTube. Look for Zero Gravity Media and our Zero G logo. Leave us some feedback using the contact form at our website. That's zero-gravity-media.com and zero-gravity-media.com/contact. Luke is working on a new article as we speak, so watch this space. And someday, dear listener, maybe I'll actually get off my ass and write something for the website too, so we will definitely keep you posted.
Watch it patiently.
Yes, patiently.
Because it's taking...
Yeah.
Yes. I haven't worked on it in like 2 weeks, I have to be honest.
That's all good, man. Business. We got celebrating to do, so... We're getting positive feedback right and left on the shorter intro, so thank you very much, and we're glad that you like it, but not this day, dear listener, not this episode. Please prevail us a little bit longer of an intro for episode number 40. We're going to shout out to you, dear listeners, all around the world. So without any further ado, happy 40th episode to Shreveport, Louisiana, Bigley, Mendon, Bigley, Baton Rouge, and New Orleans. Happy 40th to Tulsa, Ardmore, Norman, and OKC. Happy 40th to Kansas City, St. Louis, and McDaniel, Missouri. Happy 40th to the Twin Cities. Happy 40th Bigley to Chicago. Happy 40th to Omaha, Nebraska, Bigley. Happy 40th to Roosevelt, Utah, Bigley, and the Great Salt Lake. Happy 40th to Seattle, Bigley, and Bellevue. Bigley, happy 40th episode to Portland, Oregon, and Eugene. Happy 40th to Redding, California, Sacramento, Livermore, Bigley to San Jose, Mountain View, and most bigliest of all to San Francisco, home of dearest listener and the cradle of HSP. Some of our best friends live there, and they're on this trail with us each week, so happy 40th to San Francisco. Happy 40th to Bellflower, Bakersfield, Los Angeles, Bigley, San Diego, Bigley, Palm Springs, and San Bernardino. Happy 40th to Vicarious dear listener in Mesa, Arizona, perhaps soon to relocate. Happy 40th to Phoenix, Flagstaff, Sedona, and Tucson. Happy 40th Bigley to Denver, Colorado. Happy 40th to Las Cruces, the ABQ, and Santa Fe. And that leads us right here to mine and Luke's home state, Texas. What do we do about Texas here, dear listener? There are literally too many towns to name. We're blowing it up. New trailblazers each and every single week. Word is getting around Texas, and we are killing it together, dear listeners. So thank you so much, Texas. I'm going to call out just a few, though. Plano, Texas, once again, each and every single week. Arlington, Texas. Each and every single week, Bigley. We are in Dallas, Texas. And to mine and Luke's buddy living there, drank soon, brother. And we got to get you here on the show sometime. We got the Woodlands, Spring, College Station, Waco, Kaufman, Bigley, Houston, Bigley, Galveston, and sometimes we even got Austin. So thank you so much, Texas. Luke and I are proud to call the Lone Star State home along with each and every single one of you. Auburn, Alabama, Birmingham, and Tuscaloosa. Happy 40th to Leesburg, Florida, West Palm Beach, Miami, Bigley, Tampa. Too many to name in Florida, so thank you so much, Florida. Thank you for riding this trail. Happy 40th to Atlanta, Bigley, Marietta, Bigley, Augusta, Georgia. Happy 40th, Bigley, to Tazewell, Tennessee, Nashville, and Memphis. Happy 40th, Bigley, to Ashburn, Virginia, West Point. Congratulations, cadets. And on a very serious note, dear listener, we've got some dear listeners in Virginia Beach. They're on this trail with us each and every single week. Dear listeners of Virginia Beach, everybody on this trail is thinking of you today. Our thoughts and our prayers are with you. And we especially hope, Virginia Beach dear listeners, that each and every single one of you are okay. Let's ride gently today for Virginia Beach, dear listener at large. Happy 40th episode to Washington, D.C. Happy 40th to New York City, Bigley, and Rochester, New York. Happy 40th to Warwick, Rhode Island. What's up, Warwick? Boston, Bigley. Going across the pond, happy 40th, Bigley, each and every single week, Tunbridge Wells. Each and every single week, London, Bigley. Manchester, Leeds, Glasgow. Happy 40th, Moscow. Sydney and Melbourne, g'day, mates. Happy 40th. Hong Kong, Bangkok, Da Nang, Ho Chi Minh City. And most of all, to my intrepid partner in crime, the OG trailblazer himself, Cool Hand Luke, with whom I ride this trail each and every single week. Happy 40th episode, Luke. What you got to say?
Happy 40th, man.
Yes, indeed, man. I'm feeling good today. How you doing?
I'm feeling really good. Absolutely. Feeling really good.
All right, man.
First day of summer in Germany, finally. It's like 85 degrees, sunny.
Perfect.
It's been like, oh gosh, I think in Celsius so much, it's hard for me to think in Fahrenheit. Yeah, it's been like 50, 55 degrees and raining for like 2 months now. So finally ready for it to be nice.
Yeah, those are exact conditions in Texas today, man. We've got the two separate identical weather patterns up in the house, dear listener. It's 81 and sunny. It's beautiful. So, yeah. I actually got a lot of corrections this week. You're going to be unhappy with me, man. And not the least of which, one of the corrections I got is like, okay, you say iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and TuneIn. Why do you say all three? It's 4. I was like, dang, that's true.
That's hilarious.
My bad. So, yeah. So thank you for the correction. Thank you for keeping us sharp. We appreciate it, dear listeners.
I had never even noticed that.
Yeah. And it's like every episode I've been doing that, man. So embarrassing.
Yeah, I've got a little, it's not a correction. I said something that was easily misunderstood. So
okay.
I'll hit that too.
Okay. Well, yeah, I've got 2 corrections to myself. 1 correction to the both of us, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. We'll get to corrections in a little bit. And speaking of,
but welcome to the trail, everybody. Seriously though, we're 40 episodes in. Feels really good. We're going strong. We're having just as much fun, if not more fun than ever, as we did in episode 1. And Russ and I were looking at the analytics before the show, and it's slow growth, but it's up and to the right. So we're not going anywhere. And next week we are celebrating our 1-year anniversary. So we've got kind of a doubleheader in terms of, sort of celebratory shows. And then, we're ready to hit it this summer. It's going to be a lot of fun. We've got, we're really happy because the podcast sphere, the idea sphere, as it were, is really getting flooded. Everyone's got their own podcast now. And I think Russ and I kind of got in right before it just is getting spammed out. And we're in this for the long haul. And we both believe that at the end of the day, it's not going to be who blows up the fastest. It's who's left standing at the end. And we pledge ourselves to be one of the few left standing at the end. So, thanks for listening and thanks for being here. And hopefully we'll have more announcements coming up, and we are just really excited. The Democratic primaries are just around the corner, followed by the presidential campaign. So it is going to be super, super, super exciting. And maybe we should talk more about this in updates, but we want to start live streaming on YouTube as well. So you would have a format in which you can actually interact with us in a live way, but probably need to plan that a little bit more before we announce that. But anyways, thank you. That's all I wanted to say. We can move on.
All right. And I do want to say, yes, growth has been steady. It has been steady, but the last couple of months, dear listener, Luke and I were looking at the show right before we hit the red button, and The last couple of months have been explosive, Luke. I mean, we have to say we're on an acceleration right now. We're not on a just consistent rate of growth right now. We hit the accelerator button and we're really excited. So, I mean, I echo Luke's sentiments entirely. Thank you so much for listening. All of us together, stronger together, dear listener. That's how it is. That's what's up.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, man. So where are we going on the trail this week? What we got on the trail map?
Well, it's a pretty simple trail map, really. We'll probably do some sightseeing along the way. So
right.
If anybody wants to, we got to break camp first, which we're in the process of now. But we're going to talk about, obviously, the Mueller. He did this press conference, which I watched. I watched it right after it happened, talking about his report. And then basically he's just hoping to disappear into the ether and retire. And I don't frankly blame him for that. But
yeah,
kind of way to kick a hornet's nest on your way out.
Exactly.
And we'll cover that. So Mueller and Barr, that we anticipate will take up segment 1. We'll take an audio break. Then we'll move into immigration, Mexico, the trade tariffs that Trump has announced. And then we'll take another audio break and then updates, corrections, feedback, grab bag special. We have a really good grab bag special. I'm super excited about it.
Yes,
and
sir.
And like I said, we'll probably do some sightseeing. This is we deliberately left the show prep a little sparse so that we have some room to sightsee here. Maybe we'll talk about, who knows what we'll be talking about an hour from now. So let's just jump into it, man.
All right. Without any further ado, man, this Mueller disaster, I watched it live just like you did. I actually, on my lunch break, tuned into Rush, and Rush was pretty wound up about it, man. And, go ahead.
It's funny, really quick. I mean, it's funny because when I first watched it, I was like, oh, that was really professional. I was like, oh, yeah, that was cool of him to kind of not. And then, like, the more I mean, this is just how much of an optimist I am. I always try to give people the benefit of the doubt, but then the more I heard from pundits and then I re-listened to it and I was like, actually, yeah, okay, there's some subtleties in there, which I totally missed.
Yeah. It was one of these things where I listened to it and I was just like, oh shit, everybody's going to freak out. But I have to be honest, Luke, completely unfazed by it, completely unaffected. I knew exactly what the right was going to do. Definitely knew what the left was going to do in the wake of it. And I was just like, you know what? This doesn't matter. This is so full of internal conflict that I don't even care. You know what I mean? It's self-contradicting premises all over the place. Really dangerous legal rhetoric going on in here as well. But I was just unaffected by it. This is the first time that something like this didn't trigger me. And I was able to just look at it dispassionately, completely dispassionately.
Yeah. I mean, we're probably getting way ahead of ourselves here, but we should save this for later. But I personally think at the end of the day, this will have been a good thing. And we can let's explain this statement. And then we can riff on it a bit.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good. For the explanation, I'm actually going to resort to Pat Buchanan. He had an op-ed up at buchanan.org within a couple of hours after the press conference, so I'm just going to take it from the top. It's pretty short. It goes thus. What is it about special counsel Robert Mueller that he cannot clearly and concisely say what he means? His 9-minute summary of the findings of his office after 2 years of investigation was a mess. It guarantees that the internecine warfare that has poisoned our politics continues into 2020. If it was the intention of the Russian hackers and trolls of 2016 to sow discord within their great power rival, they have succeeded beyond their dreams. Consider, of the charge of conspiracy to collude with the Russians to hack the emails of the DNC and Hillary Clinton's campaign, Mueller said, quote, there was insufficient evidence to charge a larger conspiracy, end quote. This suggests that there was at least some evidence to conclude that Donald Trump's campaign did conspire with Vladimir Putin's Kremlin to fix the 2016 election, just not enough evidence to sustain a charge of treason. Didn't they used to call this McCarthyism? On obstruction of justice, Trump attempting to impede his investigation, Mueller said, quote, if we had had confidence that the president clearly did not commit a crime, we would have said so, end quote. Mueller declines to absolve Trump, was the New York Times headline. That tells us that Mueller would not give Trump absolution. But why would Trump need absolution if he did not commit the crime? Mueller implied that his refusal to charge Trump publicly was based on a Justice Department ruling that presidents cannot be indicted. But if the special counsel cannot indict a sitting president and ought not charge him, as Mueller said, it is, quote, unfair to accuse somebody of a crime when there can be no court resolution of the actual charge, then what was the point of naming a special counsel? If Mueller actually believes Trump was guilty of obstruction, why did he not forthrightly declare, quote, while the Justice Department's interpretation of the Constitution precludes my office from indicting President Trump, we believe his actions during the course of our investigation constituted an obstruction of justice. At least we would have clarity. Now we have Mueller walking out without taking questions and leaving us with this toxic mush. Republicans should not let Mueller skate on this, for the James Comey Mueller investigation is itself in need of investigation. Well said, Mr. Buchanan. Took the words right out of my mouth. Now, there is one thing that I will double down on what Pat Buchanan just said about this, and this is this crap that Robert Mueller said about WikiLeaks, about the fact that Russia colluded to hack the DNC servers and that they colluded with WikiLeaks in order to release that information. We've taken this down over and over and over again in these hallowed halls. I almost hate to do it again, but that is absurd on its face. Do you know how I know it? Number one, the DNC server was never investigated by the FBI. It was done by CrowdStrike. Excuse me, dear listener. A DNC hired forensic organization, right? Those results have never been made public. For all we know, that server was never even investigated in the first place. They just hired CrowdStrike to say that it was investigated when it truly wasn't. Second of all, you're going to dare tell us that WikiLeaks was colluding with Russia after Julian Assange himself told Sean Hannity it was not a state sponsor who gave me these emails. It was an individual. There was no state party involved in this. Point number three, if you really do think that Russia was in collusion with WikiLeaks to release this information, why didn't you interview him then, you son of a bitch? Why didn't you talk to him? You didn't talk to him because you don't want to know the truth, because you do know that WikiLeaks and Julian Assange was not colluding with Russia to release this information, and you don't want that to be in the record publicly and permanently. That's why you didn't ask him.
Is you Robert Mueller at this point? Is that who you're talking to?
Yeah, I'm addressing Robert Mueller, himself, because we know he probably listens to the show. So, we just want to set him straight on this quagmire that he's created. And so, and that's about all I've got to say about that, other than there are reports spreading around that Julian Assange is in extremely poor health, perhaps even on death's door. He was not able to testify in a hearing this week, a legal hearing, which was only a video conference. He didn't even have to leave jail because he apparently is so sick that he's absolutely incoherent, and his attorney will not let him testify. And furthermore, he's not getting medical treatment. So things sound really bad in terms of the health of Julian Assange. So let's pray for a speedy recovery. So it's about all I got, man. What's your takedown on it?
It's pretty much in line with what most everybody is saying. Ben Shapiro has said this. I've heard it on Fox News. I listened earlier. It was an interview on Laura Ingram's show with, it was Mike Huckabee, and then the sort of leftist lawyer who's always on. He's on Fox News quite a bit, and he's been writing publicly a lot about this. His name escapes me as well. And I was just listening to this interview like an hour ago. But in any case, they were talking about this as well. Basically, this is the sort of like, let's harken back to past shows. Actually, I don't know if we've ever talked about this, but Title IX legislation in universities. When somebody gets accused of sexual assault at a university and the university runs it through their kangaroo court systems, it is not innocent until proven guilty. You are assumed guilty, and then you have to prove yourself innocent. This is why Title IX legislation and these university disciplinary courts are so absurd, and they just fly in the face of the justice system. When if it is a sexual assault, it should just go to a court of law. But they can't prove anything in these cases because usually it's a drunken hookup. And then the girl, usually what it is, it's a drunken hookup. And then the next morning the girl regrets it. And then she's like, oh, I was sexually assaulted. And then she goes and tells her, whomever, counselor or whatever, And then, next thing you know, the guy is like getting drug in front of some court and they're prove your innocence. And the reason that they do that is because it would be impossible to prove it otherwise. Right. And it's the same thing. This is the exact same thing that's happening. This is what Mueller is doing. Trump does not have to prove his innocence. It's up to Mueller and the special counsel to prove his guilt.
That's what I find really dangerous about this is that twisting on the end, the flipping of the judicial system of the presumption of innocence right here. I find that frankly terrifying, man, and despicable.
Yeah, totally. But what he's doing, and this is what I was going to say earlier, I think this is a good thing. What he's doing is he's baiting the left into, it's almost as if he's fighting for Trump in some sense. It's as if and I know he's not deliberately baiting them, but it's like he's holding a stake in front of a pack of wild dogs and he's just baiting them into impeachment. And if they impeach Trump, Trump will win 2020, full stop.
Absolutely.
We know this from polling, and we also anybody with half a brain knows that this is absurd on its face. And if they try to impeach Trump, then this is, you want to talk about messing with the democratic process. There's no better example of that than this. And
absolutely,
if they go after Trump with impeachment based upon literally nothing, after 2 years of special counsel investigation, and you're seeing this on CNN, Don Lemon, he's like, I think that the next step is one word, and I forget what he said. He starts with an I. That's what he said. The media is already conditioning. This is why I think they might actually go forward with the impeachment, because the media is really doubling down on this, and there you can really begin to see the conditioning come out. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if they actually do impeach. But Nancy Pelosi, to her credit, is she knows she was there with Clinton. All Joe Biden, he was back during Watergate, for God's sakes. And so they're OGs, and they know that this is not a good idea, and they are trying to basically corral a bunch of petulant children who have absolutely no respect for representative republic and the democratic process and the rule of law, and they're trying to corral these people in, and I don't know that it's going to work. I just saw earlier that there's now 55 in the House have now said that they would be for impeachment.
Yep.
So I don't know, but if they move forward with impeachment, it's over. It is over for them. And I think it's going to come down to Biden. I think if I think if Biden says yes, let's move forward with impeachment, then I think they will. If Biden comes out and says no, then I don't think they will. But
dang, that's a good prediction. I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah, I think that, because you notice he's been eerily quiet on this.
True.
But I think that if Biden comes out and says, dude, the left is in such a hard position right now. There's no winning for them, because if they go with impeachment, they're going to lose 2020. If they don't go with impeachment, they've already done so much damage at this point. They shouldn't go forward with impeachment. But if Biden comes out and says no, and they don't, then you've got this AOC, Rashida Tlaib, you've got Ilhan Omar. This crack is going to become even wider than it was before.
Very salient point. I could not agree more.
Yeah. And then there's two more points I wanted to make about this. So it's indicative of, this Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, AOC, this Demsoc socialist wing of the left. This does show their true colors in terms of their respect for representative republic, democratic process, ironically, because they call themselves democratic socialists, rule of law, our justice system. We could probably get to this later, but they have, it just is indicative that they have no respect for anything that our country was and is, and they really do want to fundamentally transform it, as Obama said. Yeah, Yeah, I think that's my take. I had a second point. It'll come to me in a minute.
I agree with everything that you just dropped. I had not thought about that with Biden yet, and I think that is a very bold and very good prediction, or not prediction, but bellwether of where the winds are going to blow in this impeachment fiasco. I could not agree with you about this any more, that the left loses no matter what they do at this point, because this is why. Because the truth is not on their side. They pushed a lie for 2 years, right? Now that lie has been exposed for the lie that it was by their own henchman, Bob Mueller, and now they have no choice. I mean, like the emperor has no clothes. They have no choice but to continue with this rhetoric, or they lose constituency, or go ahead and impeach the man and then lose the election.
Yeah.
It's a lose-lose. You know what I mean?
This is sorry, go ahead.
Well, the only other thing I had to say about it was that, I will support an investigation for impeachment. Bernie Sanders came out, said that this week. Kamala Harris has said that. Cory Booker has said that. Just about every other presidential candidate has come out and said that they are going to support an impeachment inquiry. Elizabeth Warren has said it, right? The only one who remains silent that I know of at this moment, Buttigieg, said that he would. The only one I know, and you are entirely correct to point this out, Luke, that has remained silent about this is Biden. And yeah,
he's probably just sleeping.
Yeah, it's Sleepy Joe. Yeah, probably. No, he's been touching girls again this week. Did you hear about that? Touching girls.
Yeah, dude, I saw that. I saw that on poll. I was like, just the thread made me laugh so hard. They're like, why can he not stop doing this? Like, what is wrong? Like, legitimately, what is wrong with him?
Yeah, it's yeah.
You should tell dear listener what he said.
What was it? I bet you're just as smart as you are good looking.
Yeah, this girl's like 10 years old.
God.
And then he like puts his hands on her shoulders and leads her into go sit down somewhere. This is so creepy.
It is, man. It's just weird. Absolutely weird.
I forgot to tell you this, but I think that Trump chose the word sleepy because it sounds so much like creepy.
Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah. So, and he'll change it to creepy if he gets the nomination or something like that. So I think that's a good point, man.
Yeah. Now, this is, I remembered my second point. So this is, dear listener, a really good exercise in how you can get sucked down the rabbit hole of pragmatism and forget about principles. This is a really good example of that. So basically, what you hear on the news about this Mueller investigation is not whether it is right or wrong for them to impeach Trump. It is being framed as, is it politically expedient for them to impeach Trump? You're seeing this on The View. You're seeing it on CNN. It's not a matter of right and wrong. It's not a matter of should they or should they not, like morally and legally. Is it politically expedient for them to do it? It's like, will this help or hurt the 2020 elections? They have absolutely no concern for right or wrong. It's just political expediency, and that is could not be a better example of principles, which is right or wrong, versus pragmatism, which is in this case what's good for us right now. Yep.
Even Nancy Pelosi is behaving pragmatically in terms of, God,
totally.
Let's don't do this. Yeah,
all of them.
We don't want to go here. Yeah,
all of it. Oh, Dershowitz, that's that liberal lawyer.
Yeah.
Dershowitz has been, he did a really good, he's written about this and it's really good. In fact, Mike Huckabee had a lot of good things to say and they had a really friendly interaction on Laura Ingraham's show. And that's one of the things he talked about was like, they're talking about political expediency when they should be talking about what's right, what's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And they're politicizing all of this. They have totally and completely politicized the impeachment process. It's insane. And I don't get sucked into this arguing about political expediency. Don't even argue that. Just say, is it the right thing to do?
Good point. It just shows you how pessimistic and absolutely crass they have become and how little they respect the body politic of this country. They don't care. They don't care anything about this country, our politics. They don't care if we're turning into third world politics like Luke and I always say. They couldn't care less about that.
I'm going to push back on you a little bit. They do care, Russ. They hate our country. It's not that they don't.
There you go.
We would be better off if they just didn't care.
Yeah.
It's not that they don't care. They hate our country. They hate what it is. This is why they're trying to tear it down.
Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Where this, original sin, born in sin country that has no right to exist, that has no right to sovereignty, open the borders, let all of middle America get addicted to fentanyl, let them die. And you're absolutely right. They want to lord over us, take away our guns, call us racist, call us rednecks, absolutely deface the body politic irredeemably, in my opinion, and irreparably, I should say, more accurately. And that's it. They hate us. They hate the country. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, man.
There's no other way to put it.
Yeah, in this sense, they really are truly nihilists.
Yeah.
I think we've said this on a past show, but if you're not really sure what nihilism is, Nietzsche had a quote on it, which just so beautifully sums it up, which is that nihilism is not simply the desire for zero. It's putting one's shoulder to the plow.
Yep.
And you are actually working towards zero as the goal.
Yep.
And yeah, that's what this is. That's all this is. Man. Third world politics.
Yeah, disgraceful, man. And concerning and scary, but such as it is. Well, you may have noticed, dear listener, that we did not play any of Mueller's audio, okay? And that's intentional. We're not going to give him airtime in these hallowed halls. But what we do have are some clips of William Barr. Luke, did you see his interview with CBS that dropped yesterday? Did you watch that?
I saw some of it, yeah.
It was fascinating, man. Really good stuff. Got 3 clips that I want to play right now. In this first clip, he describes the rift between himself and Mueller and why he did not really buy Mueller's report whole cloth. Here it is.
He said that he couldn't exonerate.
Go ahead.
I was going to ask really quick, is this the interview where he said something about everybody dies?
Yeah, I'm going to play that clip.
Okay,
that's
good.
Clip number 3. Yeah, that's clip number 3. All right, here we go, man.
The president. You looked at that evidence, and you did. I mean, what's the fundamental difference between your view and his?
Well, I think Bob said that he was not going to engage in the analysis. He was not going to make a determination one way or the other. We analyzed the law and the facts, and a group of us spent a lot of time doing that and determined that both as a matter of law, many of the instances would not amount to obstruction.
As a matter of law.
As a matter of law. In other words, we didn't agree with the legal analysis. A lot of the legal analysis in the report, it did not reflect the views of the department. It was the views of a particular lawyer or lawyers. So we applied what we thought was the right law.
Yeah, so there you go. Masterfully handled, right? He's being called out by this interviewer. Her name is Jen something. She's with CBS. I can't remember exactly what her name is. Doesn't matter anyway, right? But she's like, what is really the problem? Why are you so off page from, our attack dog Mueller? What's your problem, right? What I like about this is Barr's stoicism and how he goes back directly in terms of the law, right? All of this legal theory that Andrew Weissman and the 14 angry Democrat lawyers in the Mueller probe in the special counsel's office came up with don't matter. They're only legal theories, and we don't think that they indicate the view of the law that the Department of Justice has. It just isn't in accordance with the law, and that's where we stand. We stand with the law. God tier. God
yeah,
tier,
for
man.
sure.
God tier. Yeah, and man, I just love how seriously he takes the question. He doesn't ridicule. He doesn't call out. He doesn't fact shame. He just gets back to the law every single time. Straight back to the law. What does the law say? Man, we got lucky with him, Luke. I tell you what, we got
absolutely,
lucky.
Dude.
Yeah. All right. Well, here's clip number 2. I can't actually really remember what this clip is. Sorry about that. Oh, this is about Mueller himself. Okay, this is on Bob Mueller himself. Let's listen to what Barr says. And first of all, I always like how he says, "Well, Bob thought this, and I thought this." Like, you know, we've all referred to him as Mueller forever, and he refers to him as Bob because they are formerly BFFs, known each other for 30 years, go to church together and stuff like that. But just like these HSP boys predicted and then later reported that we're hearing rumors about in HSP number 39, it turns out that this rift cometh and it deepeneth and it developeth, just exactly like we said it was. But here he is talking about Bob Mueller. Let's hear what he says.
Testify that you believe spying occurred
Yes.
into the Trump campaign.
Yes.
You've gotten some criticism for using that word.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's become a dirty word somehow. It has never been for me. I think there's nothing wrong with spying. The question is always whether it's authorized by law.
Some former intelligence chiefs have said the president has made that word somewhat pejorative, that they're spying, this is a witch hunt, this is a hoax. And so your use of that word makes it seem that you're being a loyalist.
You know, it's part of the craziness of the modern day that if a president uses a word, then all of a sudden it becomes off bounds. It's a perfectly good English word. I'll continue to use it.
Ooh, okay, all right, sorry, I got those clips out of order. This was about spying. And what do you think about that, Luke? I mean, first of all, the first thing I thought is it's a perfectly good English word, and I will continue to use it. Woo!
Yeah,
Woo!
that is such a good example of not buying into this. We've talked about this in the past. This is called conceptual package dealing, and the left does it all the time with all sorts of different things, which is what they do. They take a word and then inject a bunch of value judgments into that word. It's an otherwise objective word, spying. And what he is saying here, what Barr is saying is he says, I'm not making a value judgment on that word alone in a vacuum. He's like, my value judgment on was it authorized or not? And then the reporter comes back and she says, well, you know, the president used that word, so it makes it seem like you're a loyalist. Boom. There's the conceptual package deal she's trying to assert upon him, which is that, well, Trump uses it, therefore it's a loaded word. And what she's really doing is she's loading it. And then Barr's just like, no, this is an English word and I'm using it objectively and I will continue to do so. That is such a masterful handling of somebody trying to push a conceptual package deal upon you. That is just, man, Barr just continues to impress me.
Me too. Stay focused, maintain frame.
Absolutely.
That's what it is right
Frame
there.
maintenance.
Yep. That's what it is, man. God tier answer. And, you know, once again, what's so great about it is that he takes it really seriously. He doesn't take her down pejoratively. He doesn't ridicule her. He doesn't subtly insult her. He just goes back. He just smacks the argument up, slices and dices, puts it back in its proper frame. Fantastic, man. I'm the same as you, Luke. I'm more and more impressed all the time.
Yeah.
You know? Well, we got this one. This is the one Luke asked about, and this is what I find to be the most important, hard-hitting quote, man, that I may have heard in months, if not all of this year. It goes like this. You probably already heard it, dear listener. Oh, this is God tier.
This is the most important quote I've heard out of the entire Mueller investigation fiasco.
Yeah, me too. All right, without any further ado, here it comes.
But when you came into this job, I mean, you had a good reputation on the right and on the left. Mm-hmm. You're now someone who is, you know, accused of protecting the president, enabling the president, lying to Congress. Did you expect that coming in?
Well, in a way, I did expect it.
You did?
Because I realized we live in a crazy, hyper-partisan period of time, and I knew that it would only be a matter of time if I was behaving responsibly and calling them as I see them, that I'd be attacked, because nowadays people don't care about the merits or the substance. They only care about who it helps, you know, who benefits, whether my side benefits or the other side benefits. Everything is gauged by politics. And as I say, that's antithetical to the way the department runs. And any attorney general in this period is going to end up losing a lot of political capital. And I realized that. And that's one of the reasons that I ultimately was persuaded that maybe I should take it on, because I think at my stage in life, it really doesn't make any difference.
You're at the end of your career? Or?
I'm at the end of my career. But it's a reputation that you've worked your whole life on, though. Yeah, but everyone dies, and I'm not, I don't believe in the Homeric idea that, immortality comes by, having odes sung about you over the centuries,
God tier.
Dude,
God tier.
that's all I needed to hear to know that this man is out trying to do the right thing. We talked about this a couple episodes ago. Like, what was his impetus for doing this?
Yeah.
And there you have it. He's trying to make things, he's trying to correct the ship.
Yep. That's exactly it, man. He cares about justice and justice only.
Right.
And we said, yeah. That's all right.
I combined
we knew
course
what you
correction and righting the ship.
We knew what you meant, man. It's all good. It's all good. So, but yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And like this, I found to be like, I mean, who wants to live forever? I mean, like, do you want to live forever? Like Red Sonja asked Conan and Conan the Barbarian, do you want to live forever? Oh my God. Everybody dies. You know what I mean? All of this nonsense doesn't really matter. There's only one thing that really does matter, and that's justice. But your reputation, oh my God, your reputation.
Yeah,
I don't
it's like
care about my reputation. Yeah.
It's like she was like, justice. Who cares about that?
Right. Yeah, but that you know what? She is speaking as an ambassador of the swamp right there. That's what it is.
Absolutely.
That's the currency these people operate in is my reputation, my reputation for my principles and all this, nonsense. Barr gets up and he's like, everybody dies. I don't care about any of that. I knew I was going to lose political capital.
And the way she said that, it was like that was the first time she had ever heard somebody say that.
Right.
She was just like, wait. She probably turned. She's like, yeah, this guy cares about justice.
Exactly. Yeah, man. Yeah. And she calls him out because but your reputation, oh my God, your reputation is wrecked. As if you should care about something external to yourself more than you should be concerned about your intrinsic integrity. This is a role model for all of us to follow right here, dear listener. The greatest one in Washington, D.C. right now. Live your life like this man. Be this man. That's what you want to be. That man right there.
That's great, dude.
Yeah, it's good stuff. So I looked for the audio clip about this and I couldn't find it, right? But I did find a Daily Caller piece. There's one last thing that we learned, and I didn't really remember hearing this. I watched the entire interview, and I didn't remember hearing this, but this article dropped last night on the Caller. I'm going to take it from the lead. It goes thus. Attorney General William Barr has finally settled an enduring mystery. Where is John Huber? Huber, the U.S. attorney in Utah, was appointed by Barr's predecessor, Jeff Sessions, blah, 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 blah. But Huber has conducted his investigation largely out of public view, leading to widespread speculation about what he was actually doing. Even members of Congress have questioned what Huber was investigating, or if he was leading an investigation at all. House Republicans sent Huber a letter asking him about the status of his investigation in January. This is true. Okay, we're not going to quote that letter. We've already quoted it here. Barr answered many of those questions in an interview with CBS News. Barr said that Huber is currently wrapping up an investigation related to former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton and has not been involved for months in anything related to the Russia probe. Quote, the other issues he's been working on lately relate to Hillary Clinton. Those are winding down and hopefully will be in a position to bring those to fruition, said Barr, who did not describe the Clinton probe. Oh.
Dang, dude.
Dang.
That's heavy, man. I didn't know anything
heavy
about that.
Yeah, I didn't either. That was a surprise. That was a major surprise.
Oh, God, dude.
Yeah.
Power level increasing.
Yes. Dang, man. Oh, goodness. Yeah, you're right, man. You were so right 3 episodes back when you said, man, this is finally getting good. You're so right, dude. This is getting so good. This is getting so good. I mean, what do you think? I mean, it could be anything. The Clintons are so dirty. It could be Uranium One. It could be the Clinton Foundation. It could be the email scandal.
It could be everything, dude. Could be Obama, Clinton, everything. Everyone is wrapped. This is why they're going crazy. Everybody is implicated in this. Anybody could be implicated in this, I should say.
Yes, sir. Oh, glorious, man.
It's so good,
glorious.
Dude. And one other thing, sort of unrelated, I think the left, they're also falling for the sunken cost fallacy as well.
That's a good point, man. You would explain it to dear listener. That's a great point.
Well, sunken cost fallacy is this idea, let's say you're at a gambling table, you're gambling, and you're like, oh no, I've already lost, I've already sunk in €1,000 or $1,000. I need to, it's like, I can't stop now, or a very classic example is somebody who refuses to buy a new car. They have a lemon of a car, and so it's always breaking down. They refuse to get a new one because they've already spent $5,000 fixing it. And right. The sunken cost fallacy is the concept of associating value with something that's already happened in the past. Like, not really that. It's that the $5,000 holds some sort of value currently, when in reality it's just something that's, you've already given it away. You've already sunk that in. There's no coming. You can't undo that. And so because you can't undo it, it doesn't really inform your decisions moving forward. And I think that this is the impeachment process. They've talked about impeachment. Right. They've done the Russia probe. They can't walk away now.
Yeah, we've sunk too much political capital into this.
Yeah.
That's exactly. Yeah, it's a good point, man. It's a great point.
And they need to just walk away, but I don't think they can. They're just falling. They're just falling victim to sunken cost fallacy. They can't just walk away. They need to hashtag walk away. They need to talk to Brandon Straka, and they need to ask him psychologically, how did you just hashtag walk away? Because that's what they need to do right now.
Yeah, they do, man. Yeah. Drop the chalupa. They really, truly do. But they're not going to. They're not going to. So
no, man, they're going to take this all the way to 2020. Impeachment or no impeachment. I think they're going to take this all the way to 2020. Or Nancy Pelosi's going to have to pull like some god tier political move to shut up all these yapping little chihuahuas over here, the Dem socks, because they're not going to stop.
True.
They're
True.
They're not going to stop, so they got to figure something out.
Yeah. No, man, very, very well said and very well argued. I could not agree more. I think that also I might even say, along with sunken cost fallacy, I think that this has just kind of become a habit to them now. And it's a habit they don't know how to break. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they're addicted.
Yeah. They get their little dopamine rushes off of saying treason. Impeach. Well,
it's like they're NPCs,
Exactly so. Man, so I don't know. I've got some more articles queued up and everything, but I mean that's pretty much the gist of what I had to say, man. I've got a god tier piece by Conservative Treehouse. But I really don't have too much else about it, man. I think we kind of knocked that segment out of the park. What do you think, man? You got anything else on it?
Yeah, I just really quick, before anybody corrects me, I actually just Googled sunk. It's actually sunk cost fallacy. It's not sunken.
Oh, I thought it was sunken. Oh,
yeah,
my bad. I thought it was sunken. I truly did. Okay.
But just to clarify, in economics and business decision making, a sunk cost, also known as a retrospective cost, is a cost that has already been incurred and cannot be recovered.
Yeah.
So, in other words,
learn something new every day. I thought it was sunken, but I'm no student of economics. Well, I mean, I am. I didn't study it in school, but I am a student of economics in our professional broadcasting career lives. I am. So
yeah.
All right, man. So, should we ride to break, man? We're kind of early, man. We're doing good.
Yeah, we're doing good. Maybe we can keep this. Maybe we can actually satisfy Team Short this week.
Yeah, that would be great, man. For episode number 40, yeah, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah.
So, and we might have to do a little bit of shit posting as well, just to celebrate number 40. So that leaves us a little bit more time for shit posting if we need to, So
yeah,
that's good.
Sure.
That's good. Yeah.
All right, man. Yeah. Let's do it.
All right. So I have here the Trump's commencement speech at the Air Force Academy that happened this past Wednesday or Thursday. I can't remember exactly what. I think it was Thursday. Okay. It was so god tier. The president was jovial. These cadets loved him, dear listener. You can hear it. It is apparent in the audio. He was cracking jokes. He was very reverent of our country, and he took them on a ride, and it was fantastic. So I kind of want to play the beginning when he walks out so you can hear the applause. And then while Luke and I are at break, I'm going to maybe skip forward a little bit after he gets past all the thank yous and introductions and all that kind of stuff so you can hear the way that he connects with the cadets, because it is fantastic, and it just made me grin from ear to ear. It's nothing but white pilling. So let's do a 7 to 10 again this time, Luke. What do you think? Something like that?
Yeah, that sounds good.
All right, dear listener, give us 7 to 10 minutes of real time, and enjoy the president. We'll be gone. We'll be back at you before you know it.
Pretty happy, sir. They're pretty fired up. Very nice. Isn't that nice?
Thank you very much, please. You just like all those brand new, beautiful airplanes that we're buying. Hello, Air Force Academy. It's been a long time since I've been here, and what a place it is. At ease, everybody. I'm thrilled to be here with all of you as we celebrate the incredible class of 2019. And you truly make America proud. You make us all proud. Thank you very much. Great job. Really great job. And I want to thank Secretary Wilson for the introduction and for her 2 years of service as the first graduate of the Academy to be the very important Secretary of the Air Force at a time when we've really expanded out the Air Force and bought equipment like you've never seen before. So congratulations. Thank you very much, Heather. Beautiful job.
Okay, so this is what I was talking about right here, dear listener. We're still at break, but I'm going to skip ahead just a little bit. I'm going to play it at about 4 minutes in. Here it goes. Enjoy.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Without them, you wouldn't be here, and that's the way it is. That's the way it is. Most of all, to the nearly 1,000 cadets who I have agreed to shake every single hand. They gave me a choice. They said, sir, you don't have to shake any hands. Some people do that. Those are the smart ones. They're out of here. You can shake one hand to the one person, top of the class. You can shake 10, 50, or 100. And you could also stay for 1,000. And I'm staying for 1,000, okay? And I know we're all going to make it. There's no doubt about it, right? And there's no doubt about it. To the nearly 1,000 cadets who will soon become second lieutenants in the U.S. Air Force, you could have chosen any school, any career you wanted, but you chose a harder path and a higher calling to protect and defend the United States of America. I know what you've been through, and it's tougher. But you know what? In the end, it's better. You're going to see. You'll see. You'll see. Today, you take your place as officers in the most powerful Air Force in the history of our country, and frankly, and very easily, in the history of the world. America commends the integrity, devotion, and commitment of the class of 2019. When you choose the Air Force, you choose the noble road of service and duty and devotion. You choose to break old boundaries and unlock new frontiers and live life on the cutting edge. The first air combat happened just 1 century ago. You are the ones who will invent and define the next generation of air warfare. And you are the ones who will secure American victory all the time. Victory. To dominate the future, America must rule the skies. And that is what your time at this great academy has been all about. preparing you to do whatever it takes to learn, to adapt, and to win, win, win. You know, win so much you're going to get so tired of winning, but not really. Not really. We never get tired of winning, do we? No. Over the past 4 years, that's just what you've done. You've worked, you've preserved, persevered, you've excelled, you've done so many things that nobody else can do, and in the end, you've come out on top. It took years of focus and discipline to get here, starting long before Beast. Right? Beast. You all know what the hell Beast is, right? Just being admitted to the Academy is a monumental achievement. Only 1 out of every 10 applicants makes the cut. And don't forget, out of those 10 applicants, there are hundreds that think about it, but they know they don't even have a chance. So remember that. It's true, actually. It's actually true. For those who are accepted, another 20% don't make it to graduation, sadly. Only the best survive to the very end. And here under the majestic peaks of the Rockies, you have risen to every challenge, overcome every single obstacle, and proven yourselves worthy of the bars that will soon adorn your uniform. You survived BCT, made it to recognition, and earned your prop and wings. You soared in gliders, piloted aircraft, and launched satellites that are now orbiting way, way above us, looking down on us. You performed advanced research, developed new techniques. You honed your skills as cyber operators and jumped out of planes thousands of feet above the earth. Not easy. For America's airmen, the sky is never, ever the limit. That being said, even the best cadets can sometimes get a little bit carried away. Lieutenant General Silveria has informed me that a few cadets are still on restriction for pranks and other fairly bad mischief. You know what I'm talking about, right? And you all know who you are. So keeping with tradition, and as your commander-in-chief, I hereby absolve and pardon all cadets serving restrictions and confinements, and that you earned. You earned it. So you're all on even footing. Is that nice? This class has racked up a list of truly extraordinary achievements. 2 graduating cadets recently received one of the most prestigious awards in all of academia, Rhodes Scholarships. Please join me in congratulating cadets James Brom and Madison Tung. Please stand up.
Welcome back to HSP episode number 40. Dude, that was hilarious, man.
I know it, man.
I was cracking up, dude.
You were cracking up. Yeah, it was so good, man. Even for a cut military outfit like the Air Force Academy. Made me proud of them, man. It really did. And, dear listener, we just give the academies, we just take the piss out of them here and there because Luke and I were members of the Corps of Cadets, which is a far superior military training organization to any academy and all of them combined. And, so we just take the piss. That's all, that's,
dude.
Call them cucks and stuff like that.
I was sitting there thinking, I was like, man, where was he when I was in the Corps?
Yeah. Yeah.
I had so many demerits at one point, man.
Yeah, you did,
Rams.
man. Yeah. It happened to me a couple of times, but like, man, I was involved in deep cover operations in the Corps, and I don't know, man. I can't really talk about that because that stuff is secretive. You would be declared a terrorist if you were caught doing that kind of stuff these days. But we've alluded to it in previous episodes in these hallowed halls, the type of things that used to go on in the Corps of Cadets, specifically during finals and stuff like that, and right before final review, graduation, and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, man, it was it's pretty good fun.
You know, dude, for all the trouble I got in when I was in the Corps, I only ever sat in all my 4 years one restricted weekend.
I actually did more than that. So good on you, man. That's
I was into the Trigon, and I was able to tuck my way out of them.
Huh. Well, that's good, man.
That and one of my fish buddies was the Corps adjutant my senior year, or no, maybe it was my junior year. But yeah, he was one of my fish. I don't remember if the adjutant is a junior or senior. I think it's a senior.
It is. Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. But he used to, we were still good friends to this day, and he used to bail me out a lot. But then at a certain point, he was like, "Dude, I can't keep doing this." I was like, "All right, I'll go I'll go to the Trigon myself and talk to the bulls."
Yeah. Yeah, man. I mean, oh yeah. And so when Luke's talking about getting rammed, this is what it means, dear listener. Okay. You get sentenced to hours, right? Like when you're an underclassman, every now and then you'll get hours, but usually the way it worked back when you're an underclassman is that, excuse me, dear listener, you get in trouble, you do PT, right? You pay physically for your mistakes. When you get to be an upperclassman and you get caught, being malfeasant in whatever it is that you're doing,
could be anything. Could be you were late to something. Could be they did room inspection and your room wasn't clean. Which was usually the case with me.
Yeah.
Or you just you just get drunk and do something stupid in the dorms, just stuff like this.
Yeah, stuff like this. The rules are fairly strict even for upperclassmen, but if you're caught flagrantly against any of these rules, well, what happens is that you get what they call rammed, right? And what you have to do is you get rammed for 1 hour, you get rammed for 2 hours. You get rammed for 6 hours. And what you have to do is you have to put on your Winter A uniform and go walk around the quadrangle, which is where the Corps of Cadets is housed, for that many hours. So you got 6 hours. You put on your uniform, right? It's so hot and you're in Winter A's, and you go out there and you walk the quadrangle for 6 hours, right? And there's this parade of people every weekend. They get clowned so much, everybody comes by and you're not supposed to clown them. You're not even really supposed to acknowledge them, but they do anyway. And you walk by whoever's ran that weekend. It'll be a long train of people, anywhere from 10 to 50, walking around the quad slowly, in step, in Winter A's. And everybody kind of walks past them and laugh at them and stuff like that. It's great stuff, man.
Yeah.
It's great stuff. So yeah, but that's serious, man. I really preferred it. I don't know what it was, Luke, but when I was a freshman. Sorry about that, dear listener. That's what you call a freshman. You call them fricks or fish, right? Usually fish. Your name, in fact, is fish so and so. Fish, your last name. You're not allowed to have a first name, right? But I preferred it when I was a frick, man. To just go ahead and pay the crime in terms of PT. And just get it over with, And I don't know what it was, Luke. I think I've told you this before, but for whatever reason, my entire fish year, Thursdays were just abject hell, dude. And I would end up doing, by the end of the day, every single Thursday, I would do 1,200 push-ups, hang from the pipes, all kinds of stuff, man. You know what I mean? It was just always... Thursdays are my favorite day of the week, pretty much, dear listener. And you want to enjoy Thursdays so much, and then it just... You're not allowed to enjoy anything about a Thursday when you're a freshman in the Corps of Cadets.
Yeah.
And we know that things have changed a lot now compared to when Luke and I were in the Corps. We understand this. It's a different organization now than it was back then,
Yeah.
But risks are higher to the university now, so there really can't kind of be this malfeasance that Luke and I participated in and had inflicted upon us, if I may say, which I do. So, yeah. Good stuff, man.
Indeed, man.
Yeah. So anyways, I was proud. I was proud to be an American. I was proud of the president. I was proud of these cadets. I was laughing the same as you, Luke. I thought it was just hilarious. It was just the perfect commencement speech. And I would be so proud to be an Air Force cadet, to have the president come speak to me at my commencement, man. I would be nothing but proud. And I would probably be on restriction as well. And to have the president come and absolve me so that I can walk and get my bars. Fantastic, man.
Yeah,
fantastic.
Dude. That's great. I wonder what their officers who put them on restriction thought of that.
Yeah, exactly. They're probably mad, dude. They probably hate these cadets. You know what I mean? They put them on restriction because
probably Bernie bros now.
Yeah, right.
I'm voting for Biden now.
Yeah. Probably, man. Probably. So, yeah. Well, man, now here we are in segment 2, and we've got a bunch of content, not a bunch, but a little bit of content that we've got to get through. But like, Luke, I just want to ask your thoughts about something, if I may, before we get straight into the hard-hitting political commentary like we always do. Would you indulge me for just a couple of questions?
Sure.
Okay. So like, here's what I'm wondering, man. So like, next week is our 1-year anniversary. This is episode number 40. I can personally attest, since we started hitting the red button each and every single week, barring those ones that I was moving and, you were traveling and stuff like that, for the most part, we've been pretty disciplined. I've learned a lot. I've changed a lot. My politics have changed a lot. And I just want to know what your thoughts are about episode 40 in general, man. I mean, what are you learning, if anything, from doing this podcast? How have you changed on this trail over these last 40 episodes? Do you have any thoughts about any of that? And if not, that's fine too. I'm kind of putting you on the spot.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I guess the way I speak is different. I don't say as many ums. I don't say, go back and listen to some of those early episodes, and we are total amateurs. And
true.
I don't think that you need to completely erase ums and out of your vocabulary, but a lot of times people use that as a crutch. And if you can break that habit, and as Robert says, embrace the silence, then you'll sound a lot more professional. But don't try to sound like a robot either. Yeah. So that's sort of a superficial aspect. Intellectually, this has, man, it's a lot of things, dude. I would say it's like 2 or 3 very major things. One is how do I want to present myself as an intellectual? And not that I want to be somebody that I'm not really am. It's actually kind of funny. I think we were talking about this last week, actually, after the show, and it's taken 39 or 40 episodes for me to realize that the way I want to present is the way I feel comfortable being just myself. I don't need to be hyper aggressive. I don't need to be out just BTFOing people. I'm a pretty friendly guy, and I'm a pretty happy person in general, and I can just be that, and it's okay. And it took me a long time to realize that, but there's some episodes where I'm just like, okay, I'm just prepped. I've got, it's like I'm Rambo with my show prep. I am like ready to go, and I'm going to absolutely BTFO people for 3 straight hours. And I just don't like that approach. It's so alienating, and you're really just driving already existing convictions home in people. You're not really winning new people over. You're not bringing anybody into the fold necessarily. I think there's a time and a place for that. I think the time and a place is, if I were up on a formal debate stage debating a socialist, yeah, I'm going to absolutely destroy them, and they will regret having ever accepted that debate with me afterwards. And a lot of people are like, oh, well, then you never get another debate again. Well, like, I'm not going to attack them personally or anything like that, but I'm going to make it so overwhelmingly obvious to the audience that I'm on another level, and that person has no idea. That they have no idea what they're talking about relative to myself, relative to my positions. But Hardly Strictly Politics is not that forum for me personally. I like to have more fun, be friendly. I want people being in a good mood, and it took me a long time to figure that out. Many episodes. And then the last piece for me personally is really it's forced me to, and this is kind of a two-part answer. One, it's forced me to really understand my positions on Trump, on immigration, on these things, and really plow some intellectual ground, which I hadn't previously, because I was just focused on more deep philosophical stuff. So it forced me to kind of like come back up a little bit into the political sphere and hash some things out, which I hadn't before, specifically with immigration. And so that, that's been interesting for sure. And I'd also honed my skills in applying philosophy in a more practical way. And which is important. You can't always just be thinking about epistemology and inductive reasoning. I mean, at some point that has to bubble up to the surface where it will manifest in some material way. And so there's a process of application that I've been able to improve upon. And then the last piece is understanding who I am, not who I am, but what is my value proposition individually in the idea sphere. And for me personally, it is that process of application of philosophy to political subjects, specifically as it relates to hardly strictly politics. And I am still, I mean, we were talking about this, Russ. It's like I'm now down into the very like binary areas of philosophy, all the way down into inductive reasoning, deductive reasoning, learning through induction, proving through deduction. How does one induce new knowledge? And then how do you apply that across a spectrum of related topics, which is that's induction and deduction. And how do you actually bridge that between reality? In other words, like that's great and all, but how do you actually know that that's actually correct? And that's really, really difficult to do. And so HSP has really forced me to really hone my chops in ways and challenged me and pushed me intellectually in ways that I never otherwise would have. I don't know, maybe I would have, but I wouldn't be able to use it in such a practical way. And it's also just cathartic. I just love it. I hate reading some article and being really annoyed by it and then having no outlet, nothing I can do about it. So it unloads a lot of the emotional frustration of seeing our political world, our political landscape as it exists today. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, even more thoroughly than I intended, man. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's good. It's good stuff.
What about you, man? I'm curious.
Oh, wow. Well, this is weird because I asked you that question and I hadn't really even sat and thought about it.
Well, I'll give you a second. There's another sort of meta aspect to this. I've also learned a lot about like marketing, building websites, just the mechanics of running a podcast, audio production, all this sort of how to monetize, which we haven't even done yet, which hopefully we'll do that soon. But, like all these other tangential things, these mechanics of how to produce a good show, how to produce a podcast. And there's a lot to it. It's a lot of work, dear listener. It is. We're kind of to a point now where we're a little bit in cruise control. We've got a lot of the infrastructure in place, so we're not toiling away so much on the website and this and that. So we're kind of to the point now where we can just show up on Saturday night and roll, which is fantastic. But I mean, that was a huge learning curve that we've been through for the last year. You as well, I think.
Definitely. That is one thing that I would definitely attest to is that, without getting into personal details too much, dear listener, I've worked in media for my entire career, right? And I have learned a lot about media by working in it. And I had to really sharpen my chops a lot in order to make HSP. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I had to become a better editor. I had to become a better mixer. I had to become a better speaker, all of the above. And so that was a steep learning curve indeed. And it also has made me reflect a lot over these 40 episodes about exactly what type of media do I care about, because I've done all types of media, usually video, everything from commercials, documentaries, all kinds of stuff. And it's made me really think about the types of media that I consider valuable and what I like to produce.
There's
Yeah,
people I can't even
and
listen to anymore because I'm just like,
Straight
you're
up.
so bad. Your production quality is so low. I can't listen to them anymore.
Straight up.
They used to
man.
be like my favorite
Yeah.
podcast. Now they're unlistenable to me. And dear listener, go listen to some of our early episodes. I screwed up my audio in episode 2. It's unlistenable. I can't listen to episode 2 of HSP. And like just kind of click through our shows. Actually, this is a good strategy for driving listens, Russ. But no, just go back and like click through our shows and you can hear our audio, like how different it is from show to show. And now I use the same rack, the same gear and everything, so it doesn't change much. Might tweak a little bit here and there. Probably roll off the bass a little bit on this show. Last week was too bassy. But like, I mean, there was like wild differences from show to show up until about like 25, something around there. And you can hear us like changing, getting better over time. It's interesting.
Yeah, and I suspect that we will continue to progress. I don't think that we've plateaued in terms of technical proficiency at all. I think that we'll continue to get better.
Oh, totally.
So
I mean, I'm recording on a $40 microphone, you know?
Yeah, well, yeah, that's true. Yeah, and it's really interesting. Like, here's another process, dear listener. Like, Luke and I have two separate ways of recording the show. We have 2 entirely different rigs, 2 different operating systems, 2 different strategies for getting actual audio onto the computer. Now, we do use the same software at the end of that chain, but our strategies for getting that there just evolved entirely differently. And it was, buying this little piece of gear here, getting this little piece of gear there. Okay, that's not working. I'm going to take this out of the chain and I'm going to get this piece of gear. And, moving from USB mics up to properly powered dynamic microphones. And it was
XLR cabling and mic arms and stuff.
It was a long road to hoe.
Yeah.
And, but something that is really interesting to me that I want to kind of flip back is that, yes, that there are a lot of really poorly produced podcasts out there that to me are insufferable, unlistenable. On the other side of the coin, there is a lot of really slick production out there, both visually and in the audio format, to me, that is vapid and not worthy of my attention anymore. Like there is a lot to be said about the content you throw down and that you listen to and ingest. And Luke and I, listen, I'm not crying about it. We especially like right around November and December, like show prep was a constant chore. Luke and I probably did about 30 hours independently each week on show prep, right? Because of what Luke was saying earlier, we wanted to be suited up. We wanted to be ready. We wanted to be ready to go, absolutely perfect in every idea. And we still want that. But like we've got it down to a lifestyle now, and we've got this, like Luke said, infrastructure built, which is always funny.
We passed the infrastructure bill.
Exactly. It's an inside joke between Luke and myself about we need to build some infrastructure about this and all this kind of stuff. And we still ingest huge amounts of content, but we're both very selective now. I can't speak for Luke on that. I am very selective about the content I take.
Yeah,
at this point
we used
in
to
time.
come up. I would have 30 topics. Russ would have 30 topics. We would spend all Friday night. Well, Friday night my time. Well, no, Friday night your time too. I would stay up. And sorry, like, thank you for allowing us to indulge in this. But we're coming up on our 1-year anniversary next week and episode 40. So we're kind of just having
a little bit wistful.
Yeah. I mean, it's an accomplishment. I mean, so it's interesting talking about it. Maybe, maybe dear listeners enjoy us pulling back the curtains a little bit, but yeah, I mean, it used to be the case that, we would spend all Friday night. I would stay up till 12:30 so that Russ could, get on the horn at 5:30. And we would spend 3 hours. I'd stay up till 3:34 in the morning, and we would reconcile our 60 topics to remove duplicate topics. Yeah. And then we would spend 2 hours hashing through all of them. And then we would settle on like 10. And then it was a dash to show prep on those 10 because, you get scared of show prepping too much on one topic because something might happen and then you have to throw it out. So, then it's this sprint to show prep all day Saturday, and then we record, and we weren't as good then, so it'd take us 5 hours, 6 hours to record a 3-hour show. Man, it was tough. But now we've gotten to the point where I'm just like, nope, we're not going to talk about that. Nope, we're not talking about that. Nope. And I'll come with a handful, 4 or 5 topics, maybe. And it's almost always the same ones Russ picked out. And so, we can spread the show prep out more through the week, and it's working out a lot better. It's a lot less pressure, and it's a lot less of a grind. It feels much more natural.
Certainly. And, but boy, that was a hard row to hoe. And I'm not even kidding. It took a lot of practice to learn how to do that and, learn each other's styles and interests and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. But I mean, I also think that that's something that, you have to go through if you want to do.
Yeah, I do too.
You have to go through this. I don't think we'd be where we are today if we didn't have those 4.5 hour shows around episodes 28, 29, 30.
Yeah.
We had to go through that. We had to go through bots and realize that we got to spin this off to another show if we're going to keep the shows under 3 hours. And, realizing it's unsustainable to do this much show prep and cover this much material. It's just not sustainable because you're focusing all your time just being super aware of everything that's going on in the world. And, we both have full-time jobs that probably would be sustainable, but I mean, we'd probably just record more, we'd just be able to record each day and then just can the topic after that. But,
yeah.
Anyways, yeah.
Well, and speaking of it like this, the way that we've talked about this evolution that we've been through, I'll tell you something. I mean, some changes now. This is kind of clarified in my mind now. I certainly have become much more philosophically astute speaking with you. I certainly have become much more principled, and I've certainly come to the point that I can ingest a piece of media, whether it's an article or an interview or anything like that, and I can still distill it down to the facts very quickly of what I think is important to dear listener, basically. You know what I mean? Not what's important to me, what's important to talk about, what's important to share and get out there in the idea sphere. I can reduce things down very quickly after being through this grind for the last year. And, I'm not trying to brag, dear listener, I'm not, but it was about necessity. Luke and I absolutely had to lessen the amount of time that we spent doing that. It was a second full-time job back around December.
Yeah, absolutely. I was putting at least 40 hours a week on top of my normal job into this.
Yeah. So it's been quite a process, dear listener. We hope you've enjoyed going through us with it because you make us better. You give us this great feedback about what we do well, what we don't do so well. You got to shorten the intro, bro. These intros are getting way too long, and you're absolutely right. And you keep us on our toes. You gave us some pretty harsh but good corrections this week.
Man.
And so we appreciate it because we're Luke and I don't think about it just like Luke and I. Y'all are right here with us, and we love this so much that we're growing together like this. It's fantastic, man. Beyond our wildest expectations, let's be honest, Luke, beyond our wildest expectations, what's going on right now, we had no idea that it would be
Yeah, I mean, I had no idea.
Like this.
I had no idea if anybody cared, and we were just like, let's just see if this works. And it's a slow growth, it's not like we have thousands of listeners or something, but we've got a good number of people that listen to us week over week. We got some people that pop in and pop out. We have some, not pop in and pop out, but they just kind of show up here and there, and then we've got some people who will be absent for 3 weeks and then they'll just binge everything. And then we got some people that find out about us and then go back and listen to our previous our whole catalog of work.
Yeah, that's been our biggest growth right now, which was really surprising to Luke and I, is that it's back catalog listens that we're getting right now. And we don't know if it's people catching up. Send us some feedback. Let us know how you found us. Let us know where you started this trail. Let us know if you're trying to catch up on back episodes, if you jump off the trail every now and then and jump back on. But Luke, I might suggest, we may be in the thousands of listeners in terms of people jumping on and off the trail. But what we know, but what we know for sure is that we're definitely in the hundreds. And Luke and I always swore we'd never talk about metrics, but just to tell you how you're doing, dear listener, we're definitely in the hundreds each and every single week. Come back and listen every single week. And that is way beyond what we thought where this trail would lead. Way beyond that. So thank you so much. Thank you so much. And we're going to keep doing it. And that's what's up. We're going to keep doing it.
For sure. Yeah, send us. And if if you're one of these people that's listening to previous shows, you didn't feel like we sufficiently covered something, like the DemSoc deep dive that we did, episode 6. I'm sure there's some stuff there where I was like, oh man, we did a bad job with that, And so if there's stuff in previous shows that you felt we didn't sufficiently cover or something, like send us an email and let us know and we'll be happy to cover it again.
Yeah. Yeah. And like something I have an interest in as well, Luke, like really, this is way in the future, but I have interest in us creating some type of a forum. I thought that our comment section might evolve into that type of thing, but comment sections have their own baggage that come along with it. We totally understand this. But some type of forum where you can interact directly with one another, dear listener, and you can get to know one another, and we build this community together in terms of direct knowledge of one another. I mean, you can take pseudonyms and all that kind of stuff. You don't have to dox yourself. But we want to set up, or I think about setting up an environment where we can all interact together at some point in time in the future. I think it'd be fantastic, but that's long into the future.
Actually, not, dude. I think like we could just make our Discord server that.
All right, cool.
But we need to figure out. Yeah, we need to figure that out for sure. Like and it needs to be paywalled because I don't want random people jumping in our Discord. I want even if it's like $1 a month.
Yeah.
Like I do not want random people just jumping on our Discord server.
Yeah. That's true. I don't know, man.
But it'll just be something like $1 a month or something.
We'll figure it out.
I think that's 1 year anniversary show topic.
Yeah, maybe so.
Well, speaking of which, man, we've been sitting around the campfire here and roasting marshmallows and talking about the past year of trail riding. So I think it's time we probably should ride on.
Yeah, we got to saddle up and ride on, man. Thank you for the indulgence, dear listener. We did want to lift the curtain a little bit. Hope you enjoyed it. All right, man. So there is a lot going on in terms of immigration this week. There was a big announcement made on Thursday this past week. I'm going to take a Breitbart piece from the lead. It goes thus. President Donald Trump made good on a promised immigration announcement Thursday night, proclaiming he will increase tariffs on Mexico. Quote, on June 10th, the United States will impose a 5% tariff on all goods coming into our country from Mexico until such time as the illegal migrants coming through Mexico and into our country, all caps, stop, President Trump wrote in a Thursday night tweet. All right, so what we have here is a tariff scenario where on June 10th, we're going to throw down a 5% tariff on all imported Mexican goods. If things don't improve by July 1st, well, then we're throwing down another 5%. Things don't improve by August 1st, another 5%, going into October 1st, where we will max out at a 25% tariff on all imported goods from Mexico. Now, this is a big deal. Mexico is our bigger trade partner than China, even by far. About $354 billion of Mexican goods come into this country every year, and Trump is talking about a flat tariff on all of them, okay? This is such a big deal that, man, Mexico scrambled fighter jets. They sent their dignitaries directly to Washington on Friday to go talk to President Trump. They're supposed to be in talks next week. Mexico is terrified of this, as well they should be. Now, Luke, I'm just going to throw an opinion in here, and then I want to ask you yours. I'm not big on tariffs, right? Now, the China tariffs, which we're going to get to in audio break 2, I kind of understand this because we're trying to rebalance a disadvantageous trade agreement between our country and theirs. What we are doing right now with Mexico is that we are putting trade in direct relationship with illegal immigration, rather inverse relationship with illegal immigration. And if nothing else, maybe this is a great way to pay for the wall with tariffs. Joe Pollack wrote a great piece on Breitbart to that effect this week. It was actually really kind of funny. Maybe we can pay for the wall this way. But I'm not big on tariffs. And Luke, I think, is going to say he's not big on tariffs. My only opinion is this. Trump has tried everything to stop this illegal immigration coming into our country. He's done everything. Economic sanctions, unfortunately, seem to be the only thing we have left other than straight up invading Mexico, destroying Mexico City, and saying, stop it right now. And your country is dilapidated at this point in time. There is no other option than trade because our own court system and our own Congress have taken all options off the table. The one thing that Congress and the courts have not pushed back on President Trump about thus far are trade negotiations. Even though that is happening, there's going to be a lawsuit filed by the Chamber of Commerce and other business interests on Monday morning. It didn't take long for everybody to freak out, and they're going to try to stop the president and enjoin him from exercising these tariffs. So the bottom line is this. I'm not crazy about treating illegal immigration in terms of tariffs. I don't like it. I also don't think that there's any other option left than open war with Mexico. I think that we're at the end of anything we can do, and that's not Mexico's fault. That's because of our own political system. Now, Luke, at this point in time, I'd like to ask you to jump in with your opinion about this. But before we get out of this segment, AMLO was really insolent to President Trump last night, and I want to cover that and some other things going on with the wall and stuff like that before we get out of this segment. So what do you think about the tariffs as they relate to immigration at this point in time?
Yeah, I mean, morally, economically, politically, I mean, maybe it'll accomplish some political end, but I mean, I disagree with taxation as such. So, of course, by virtue of that, I disagree with tariffs. And now, in terms of like, I've heard many people say, oh, well, this would be, and I didn't see that particular article, Russ, but I saw some other people talking about, well, this is how we would have this would be a good way to pay for the wall. Well, it's the same people paying. It's Americans paying tariffs that would pay for the wall. It's not Mexico paying for the wall. It's Americans that are paying tariffs that are paying for the wall because Americans pay tariffs. When we tariff imports, we pay those tariffs.
It's a tax on ourselves. That's straight up truth.
Yeah, so I didn't read that article, but I can already tell you has absolutely no idea what he's talking about.
Oh, he's a pretty smart guy. It was kind of tongue in cheek, so yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like a Breitbart piece. But I generally like Breitbart, but sometimes they're just they just get it completely wrong. And I mean, the other thing is like in terms of economic sanctions, I mean, this is it's basically like the drug wars. All this is going to do is fuel more illegal immigration. Because if you cripple Mexico economically beyond what it already is, all it's going to do is fuel more people trying to get out of there and come to the United States.
That's a fantastic argument.
So I just, and maybe politically it hurts them, but yeah, I mean, I think it's going to backfire. It's going to fuel more illegal immigrations insofar as it damages their already crippled economy. And, and if we do use it to pay for the wall, well, then we just paid for it in a different way. That's it.
Yeah. Well, speaking of the wall,
I was going to ask, what is the deal with the wall? What's the current status?
Oh man, the Ninth Circuit Court, of course, enjoined President Trump these nationwide injunctions that we've been talking about that are going to develop going forward, dear listener. Believe this, Mike Pence has already signaled that they are going to be suing about judicial injunctions, and Clarence Thomas in the Supreme Court has expressed sympathy to this end. 37 injunctions on President Trump in 2 years, as opposed to 27 in the entire 1900s. It's insane. We talked about it. We litigated that in 39. Not going to do it again. But the Ninth came out and said these small sections of border wall that President Trump wanted to build in the Rio Grande Valley and in New Mexico have to be stopped. All right, that's the first thing. But the one that is really most infuriating, Luke, and I think that this is going to get stuck in your craw the most, is that the We Build the Wall project built 1.5 miles, well, a little bit, right around a mile, let's call it a mile, of wall in 3 days last weekend while we were recording HSP number 39. They built 1.5 miles worth of wall. Now, this is Brian Colfage's project, to which I contributed, if I may say, and I am going to contribute again, believe that. He raised $20 million to build the wall. Well, he
raised
came
how
up
much?
$20 million on a GoFundMe. $20 million, right? And unbeknownst to me, I mean, I've got an article here to this effect. I can definitely prove it, but I'm not going to read it in the interest of time. He got Stephen Bannon involved as the kind of project manager for this, and he got Chris Kobach as the lead attorney representing the We Build the Wall project. And nobody knew any of this stuff was going on. In fact, people were saying, hey, man, we got ripped off. Did you just pocket this $20 million? What's going on? Colfage tweeted about a week ago, listen, everybody chill. We didn't pocket the money. This is a high OPSEC situation. We can't let anybody know what's going on with our plans. So just bear with us, right? And he got shouted down quite a bit more. Now, Brian Kolfage is a triple amputee veteran, you know what I mean? Like, and he's done the work, and he's really intelligent with stuff like this kind of crowdsourcing and marketing stuff. He's really clever with it. Well, they spent $6 million and built a mile-ish section of wall there where there was a gap between El Paso and I can't remember the town in New Mexico, okay? And they got that wall up quickly. It's an 18-foot wall, right? It is God tier, man. First of all, like, what is really white pilling about this is that the government is like, oh, we're building all this wall, blah, 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 blah. Dude, they built a mile in 3 days, and it is a formidable wall, right? Well, sure enough, let me just go ahead and read the article. It's from the Caller. It dropped on the 28th. The half-mile private border wall that sprung up over Memorial Day weekend was hit with a cease and desist order Tuesday for being built in violation of a Sunland Park, New Mexico city ordinance. Now, what this wall was intended to do, let me jump out of the article here for a minute, is join the gap from El Paso to Sunland Park, New Mexico, which massive drug trafficking goes through, massive human trafficking goes through. Hundreds of thousands get through this 1 mile gap. So that's why they spent the $6 million, was to bridge that gap right there so that people couldn't get through anymore, right? Well, sure enough, Sunland Park, New Mexico comes out and enjoins them, and it is really infuriating for this reason, Luke. That is private property. That mile-long gap right there is owned by a person, and this person is like, hell yeah, I want this wall on my property. I've been trying to keep these illegals out for years now, man. Finally, I got a wall. Yeah, man, I want this wall on my property. You know what I mean? Nonetheless, Sunland Park comes out and says, oh, you didn't have a permit for that. And besides, you can only build 6 feet worth of wall. You can't build an 80-foot wall. The wall's really just way too tall. And they're going to try to tear it down. That's what's up. They're going to try to tear down
God, dude.
this private wall on private property. That's what's going on. Yeah. Yeah. What do you think about that, man? Did I trigger you?
Yeah, that's totally ridiculous, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, there's just nothing to even say about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that's so egregious. There's nothing you can even say about it.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, they've got the contract with the property owner. The property owner is like, F yeah, man, build this wall right now. Build the wall, build it tall. You know what I mean? So they do. They absolutely get all of the legal rights to do it. And then a municipality comes in and, oh my God, this wall is too tall. We never gave you the permit to do that. You know what I mean? Yeah. Now, I have talked to a couple of people who were like, okay, yeah, they ramrodded the process through. Stephen Bannon even confesses to this fact. He says these words, we had to catch them by surprise, Bannon said, adding that local residents are, quote, gonna freak out when they see the hastily constructed wall, okay? So, yeah, I mean, they probably cut short the, permit process and all this type of stuff. Who cares? It's this dude's private land. Who cares?
Yeah, totally.
Oh, man. And he wants it. He would have built it himself. He just didn't have $20 million in the bank with which to do it. So, Brian Kolfage, sir, we appreciate your service. All right, so $20 million raised on GoFundMe. You're going to be making a lot more than $20 million in the next weeks going forward. So let's call it, I bet you make about another $5 million in contributions. So let's call it 25. Let's see, you've spent about 6. That leaves, according to my rough estimation, about $19 million worth of money left in the kitty to go sue Sunland Park, New Mexico. Sue them, sir. Use some of that money to absolutely sue them for enjoining you, for giving you a cease and desist. Come on, man. Cease and desist on my own private property. Screw you, man. Screw you.
Yeah, especially considering the fact that they're having to do this because because the government won't do the one thing that they're supposed to do, which is enforce private property, protect private property. That's the one job. Well, not the one job, but that is the primary role of government is
defend your border,
private property rights.
Oh well, yeah. True. Yeah.
And they're failing on that miserably. And when somebody actually says, okay, well, if you're not going to do it, then I will. And then they're like, no, you can't do it either. We don't want to, and we're not going to allow you to.
Yep. Yeah. And there's the immigration crisis in a nutshell. When you get right down to it, there it is, all wrapped up and tied up with a bow right there. That's it. we can't do it. Oh, well, yeah, okay, you can do it, but you can't do it. That's essentially what our government is telling us right now. So, yeah. Yeah, and I don't know. There are a lot of people that say, "Well, yeah, but you got to get the permits. You got to do all this kind of stuff." I was having a conversation just last night to that effect, and man, okay, I get the point. All right, I understand. This particular listener has to deal with permits and things of this nature all the time. I understand why you say that, but the question is, why do you have to get these permits to do with whatever you want with your own property? Why do you have to? You shouldn't have to. Yeah, there is no moral, rational reason for you to have to go get permission from a municipality or any other government authority for you to do with what you want, for you to do what you want with your own property.
Right.
Ridiculous. Yeah. I mean, there's nothing left to say. You're right, Luke. There's nothing left to say, but here is our immigration crisis, and this is why. It is symbolized and absolutely explicated with this incident right here. Ugh.
Yeah, we should definitely keep dear listener up to speed on what develops from that.
For sure. Yeah, we will, dear listener, believe us. We're going to follow this story. I mean, we're following lots of stories right now. I mean, we're only talking about immigration and Mueller and stuff like that, but we know what went on in European elections. We know what we like Luke says, we never miss anything, right? We're just taking a curated trail this week, trying to leave us some time to, shitpost a little bit and wax nostalgic about our past 40 episodes. So thank you for indulging us on that. But we will follow this story among others, and we'll let you know what's going on. We're not going to let this drop. We're not going to let it. So, yeah.
That's right.
So, in other blackpilling news, 5,000 illegals released into the country last weekend by DHS. It turns out that they are truly flying them all around the country. Popular destinations include San Diego, Phoenix, San Antonio. So that was 5,000 in one weekend that were released. We are over capacity right now by about 20,000 in detention centers.
I saw something about like 7 times the legal limit.
Yeah. It's awful. It's absolutely awful. And so, Mexico, I just want to tell you, I'm not talking to Mexican Americans whatsoever. I'm talking to you, citizens of Mexico. Although I've never seen a listen come out of Mexico ever, Luke. Have you ever seen a listen in Mexico? I never have.
Well, yeah, we did actually, but it was one of those listener bots.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that doesn't count. But okay. So,
but I think maybe we had, but I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah. Well, Mexico, I just want to say, like, Luke and I are not happy about these economic sanctions going into practice, because we know what that means is that we're going to pay in order to purchase your goods. We're not really happy about it, but there's nothing left for us to do. But I want you to know, you, Mexico, are pushing this dangerously close to a military conflict. I want you to consider this. I want you to talk to your leaders about this, right? Mexican leaders, AMLO in particular, your insolence stops now, or we have no other solutions left but military solutions. And this is a rational reason to use our military, not foreign adventurism, to defend our own damn border from the likes of you. You are pushing this. And this is specifically what I'm talking about right here, dear listener. I'm going to take a Breitbart piece that dropped last night at about 8 p.m. It goes thus. Poor people have a right to migrate to the United States, and migrants should not be stopped by force, according to a letter from Mexico's president to U.S. President Donald Trump. President Lopez Obrador's May 30th letter, provided by the Wall Street Journal, claimed a migrant's, quote, right to justice, saying, President Trump, social problems are not resolved by taxes or coercive measures. How do you transform the country of fraternity for the world's migrants into a ghetto, a closed space where migrants are stigmatized, mistreated, persecuted, expelled, and the right for justice is canceled to those who tirelessly seek to live free of misery? You son of a bitch. The temerity of this bastard is absolutely unbelievable. I would not send a letter like that to somebody I know, much less a political letter like that to a president of a sovereign nation. The letter also suggested that poor Mexicans have a right to migrate into the United States. Quote, It is worth remembering that within a short period of time, Mexicans will not need to migrate into the United States, and that migration will become optional, not compulsory. Obrador's letter did not formally reject or accept President Trump's demand that Mexico block the huge Central American migration into the United States, nor did it directly denounce Trump's threat to impose rising tariffs on Mexico. Instead, it repeatedly claimed poor people have a right to move into the United States. In one section, the letter appropriates the Statue of Liberty as a supposed symbol of legal migration, saying that the Statue of Liberty is not an empty symbol. I'm so tired of hearing this. All right. Listen, the Emma Lazarus poem on the Statue of Liberty is not written law. It's not even custom, okay? And it's ripped out of context by the left. You're tired, you're poor, you're humble, massive, learning to breathe free. Come on, man. All right, that is no credo of the United States whatsoever, particularly when you are going to invade us like this, which President Trump is finally, that's the white pill out of all of this, he's finally using in these tweets where he declared sanctions upon Mexico, he's using the right word finally. It's an invasion. I want to read just a little bit more, 2 more quotes from Lopez Obrador's letter. Here you go, Luke. President Roosevelt was a titan of liberties. He proclaimed the 4 fundamental rights of humankind before anyone else: the right to freedom of speech, the right to freedom of religion, the right to live free from fear, and the right to live free from misery. President Roosevelt did that first. I think you got things a little bit backwards there, Obrador. With all due respect, even though you have the right to express it, the slogan, quote, America first, is a fallacy, because until the end of time, even over national borders, universal justice and fraternity will prevail. Can you believe this? You know what, man? I'm so triggered. I'm just going to say it. Invade Mexico. All right, no more sanctions. No more footsie. All right, we're not just going to not buy your goods anymore. We're going to march right down to Mexico City, just like we did in 1836. That's what's up. You did this, Mexico. You did this.
Yeah, I mean, if you wanted to help fix the problem, I mean, one of the biggest problems with Mexico is the drug cartels, and we know this. I mean, if you wanted to really deal a major blow to basically the corruption and the impoverishment of Mexico through corruption and bad governance, and frankly, an inability to govern. I mean, most of Mexico, I'm convinced, I don't know this for sure, but I'm convinced most of Mexico is just not even governed. It's just chaos. It's being ruled by drug cartels. Just end the war.
That's exactly it. Yep.
Yeah, just end the war on drugs.
Yeah.
That's it.
End the war on drugs, start the war on the drug cartels. You know what I mean? I mean, particularly after one of our Marines was attacked on Thursday night, he was captured, or rather he was in a spying vehicle, a surveillance vehicle. They came up, pardon my pejorative term, my gosh, spying, oh my God, right? 3 illegals came up, opened the door, tried to grab his sidearm, ripped him out of the car. He shot and missed, and then they ran away after that. But they directly attacked a U.S. Marine on our side of the border, not on the Mexican side on the border, on our side of the border. That's an act of war. That's an act of war. Right there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that that's an act of war. I mean, it would need to be something that the government sanctioned, that the government did, basically. I mean, if me and 2 friends go over to Japan and we try to steal a firearm off some Japanese soldier, that's not an act of war from the United States to Japan.
Do you think that Japan, for a moment, would not treat that in their judicial system as an act of war? Because I guarantee you that they would. And especially other nations like Singapore, you do something like that, man, you're getting caned, man. Straight up.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you would. Sure. Yeah. But they wouldn't treat it like the United States as an entity is attacking us.
Yeah, fair enough. I get your point. Yeah. I get your point. But I mean, in the context of this, 100,000 immigrants, illegals per month, it's hard not to think such things, Luke. You know what I mean? It truly is.
Yeah, I know. But I mean, I don't know, dude. I've never had that much of an issue with immigration in the first place. I don't get nearly as riled up about it as you do. Because I don't know. I've never personally been negatively impacted by illegal immigration. I don't really know anybody that has. I just uphold the principle that we need a functioning border. That's it. There are things that we could do that would make this problem largely go away, which would
Absolutely.
which would
E-Verify.
What's that?
E-Verify would be a great measure to put into place, right? E-Verify is a system which background checks individuals to see if they have legal status in the United States to work here, right? I am all about prosecution of employers who employ illegals, right? In some circumstances, I cannot be absolute about this because of my own work history. But, not prosecution, but fines. That's how I would do it. I would do it in terms of fines. You know what I mean? And, I do know a lot of people who have been harmed by illegal immigration. I personally, in my own life, have benefited from illegal immigration. I know a whole lot of illegals, man. I really do. And I like them a lot, man. I would do anything to get them into the country legally, right?
Yeah.
But I think, functioning immigration system, yes, that is a really big point. But for me, and the reason that I get so triggered about this, man, is that what it is to me is the rule of law, right? And like laws exist for a reason, and we're all supposed to abide by them for a reason. And to see millions upon millions of people flagrantly flout our laws really does trigger me, man, because it sets up a system where they don't have to follow the law, but man, you don't pay your parking ticket, you're going to go downtown for it, man. And so it becomes a two-tier justice system in favor of elites and in favor of illegals, man. And it's just not fair, man, because that's not what we signed up for. We all assigned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I get it. Like I get it, in terms of rule of law, you have to enforce it. But like, you have to remember, dude, like we do this to ourselves. We can't even, we do this to ourselves. We elect our own politicians.
Absolutely.
We elect our own politicians. We elect politicians who don't care. We elect politicians who, so I guess my point is that like we largely do this to ourselves. Therefore, like, why would we invade Mexico? I don't think that warrants invading. I mean, it never would happen. That could never happen. At least not in the foreseeable future. But
I think things are changing with Obrador's letter, to be honest. I think that changes the context of things a lot to be lectured pedantically by another president. I think that changes a lot. But I don't want war with Mexico. Listen, I don't like Mexico. I really don't like them. I love Mexicans. I love Mexican food. I don't like Mexico as a country, and I don't like their government and the way they run things. I just don't. What I mean?
But they won't run things. Clearly, it's the cartels that run things.
True. That's exactly true.
Yeah.
So
there's the same sort of thing like with Germany. It used to be the case because that China would win contracts. They would build crappy stuff and do crappy work, but they were cheap. So that's how they would win contracts. But they've got to the point now where they're still pretty cheap, but now they're doing comparable work to the West. And the West has, and in Germany, this company, they're a very German company. They won't hire people who don't speak German. They don't like hiring people who are not German. And that isn't a complete moronic decision, because when you're trying to compete as a business, you should be hiring the best people that you can find, not the best people that you can find who are one of 35 million people. You should just be hiring the best people that you can find so that you can remain competitive as a business. And now these companies can't compete with the East and Vietnam, China. They can't compete because, they've got their 2 years maternity leave. They've got their unemployment benefits. They've got this.
Unions, not the least of which,
unions.
Yeah.
It's so expensive to hire somebody that they can't compete with a company like China. They just can't do it anymore. And whose fault is it? It's not the Chinese fault. It's the West's fault. It's our own fault that we can't compete with other countries anymore. So
that's one thing that I wanted to.
When I look at this issue with Mexico, I'm just like, why are we like we have failed at every single step of the way to deal with this problem. So why are we looking at Mexico and blaming it on them? Like it is our fault that this is happening because we are spineless and we don't have the right policies and we elect idiot politicians who don't want to fix the problem and we have bad laws.
Yeah, I agree with you entirely on this premise. But to be fair, I think that there is a lot of blame to go around to Mexico as well in this particular
sure,
case.
Dude.
You know,
sure.
Yeah,
I mean,
you know.
like I'm not going to accept a letter like that from from a Mexican politician. When they're saying, "Oh, Mexicans have a right to come over to the United States." No, Mexicans have a right to expect their government to fix their country so that they can flourish, so that they can have private property, so that they can live a normal lives, so that they don't have to leave home. Most people don't long to go to a foreign land. Most people want to stay where they are. And even when they do go to a foreign land, they want to return at some point. And Mexico makes that all but impossible. But just like we should be blaming our politicians and the people who elect these politicians, the Mexican people should be blaming their politicians as well.
Right.
They shouldn't be mad at Trump. They shouldn't be mad at us. They should be mad at their politicians. They should be saying, why are we not able to live in our own country? Why do we have to leave? I don't want to be lectured about how I have a right to leave my own country. I have a right to have I have property rights. Why aren't you protecting those? That's what the Mexican people should be saying. So like rather than feuding, we should be just turning inward and saying like, what the hell is wrong with us?
Yeah. I do agree with your premise entirely, man. This is a self-inflicted wound and we are bleeding out from it. And this, it's entirely because of the Blob Party, the leftists and the rightists who want this to continue and have absolutely corrupted the political system to the point that it can't be fixed. You know what I mean? And I mean, I got to give it to Trump. He's trying, but he gets shut down. And this is proof of the Blob Party's entrenchment into the political system. There's nothing he can do. Yeah. But I just want to emphasize and underscore. I do agree with your premise that this is something that we have done to ourselves and we seem miraculously unable to fix it. It's insane, man. It's absolutely insane. So, but I also do see a lot of, how would I argue this? It's not just that Mexico's at fault for being a crappy government that doesn't protect property rights and develop their economy and all of this kind of stuff, which is definitely true. But it's not just that. It's all of this imperialism that I see implicit in Mexican political rhetoric about things like Aztlan, right? About the fact that we are going to take back over the United States.
Oh, yeah,
because
like
it's
La Raza
ours.
And this sort of thing.
Yeah, La Raza, for example.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, totally.
And I think that, I think a lot of that rhetoric is what is to blame here as well. So, and you see it laying bare in Obrador's letter to President Trump that they have the right to move here, right? That sovereignty will be dethroned, absolutely dethroned to universal justice and fraternity. Come on, man. That's imperialism.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I mean, how do I want to address this? There's a couple things there, right? Like, that's the president of Mexico. Okay. And he's saying this. And if he is, I could see how that might be interpreted like as an act of war, but again, like, how do you stop that?
Yeah.
We have to do something about it. We have to protect ourselves. Not only are we not willing to protect ourselves, our intellectual establishment believes that we deserve it.
That's exactly it.
When immigrants are going, let's take an immigrant who does go through to get their citizenship. They do it the right. What do they learn? Well, they learn that America's evil. Not that America's evil, not in those terms, but it's like, welcome to America. Be sure to bring your culture with you because our culture is terrible.
Yep.
We teach immigrants not to be like us. We teach immigrants, and this is professors that do this, and we tell immigrants, look, like, enrich us, like we eat hot dogs and hamburgers all day, and that's like the extent of our bland, boring culture. So
Yeah.
enrich us. And here's our past with slavery and all this. And these are what immigrants are. It's not like welcome to America. We set the standard for what human life ought to be. We pioneered that. Like, welcome to the home of freedom. It's a shame that you had to leave your country, but come here and make a life for yourself. It's all good. Follow the laws, work, live your life, flourish, and never forget that you had to leave your home country because you were not able to do this there.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what we should be teaching. But no, we teach them, bring your country with you because we're just this morally depraved country. This is what our professors teach. This is what, so when they talk about La Raza, you've got professors on our side of the border going, oh yeah, we did take that land from them, So again, I have a hard time feeling bad for ourselves in any of this stuff because we just do it to ourselves.
Yeah, I can't disagree, man. It's a very smart point you argue, and I agree 100%. And
yeah, but I mean, there, at a certain point, you could treat La Raza as a which, by the way, dear listener, that's Spanish for the race, as in their race of people. So this is like a literal Mexican race supremacism. This is Mexican supremacism. And, at a certain point, if they started behaving terroristically, then yes, you could declare them like a terrorist organization. And you could tell Mexico, if you don't do something about this, we will. And believe us, you don't want that to happen. There's nothing stopping.
Yeah.
But again, we would never do that. We're so spineless. We're total, complete cowards.
Yeah.
The Twin Towers fell, and even then we're not able to identify an enemy. We're not willing. We don't have the courage to even identify who the real enemy is. If we won't do it after the Twin Towers, why would we expect that to happen with a couple 100,000 illegal immigrants?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely, man.
Well, dude, we've just blackpilled, dear listener. Sorry, dear listener.
No, sorry, dear listener. It's but these black pills have to be dealt with. Please forgive us. And I mean, it's a black pilling situation. That's just the fact of the matter. So sorry about that, but those are the facts on the ground right now. And we'll stay on top of it, and we'll let you know what happens. So,
all right, dude, you want to ride on to break?
Yeah, let's do it, man. Now, you dug up this audio piece right here, and it is really good, man. So you want to tell, speaking of trade wars, you want to tell dear listener about what we're going to play real fast?
Yeah, sure. So I stumbled across this not audio clip. I stumbled across this particular audio clip, but I stumbled across this YouTube channel that's really good. It's called China Uncensored. We'll link to it in the comments after we post the show on our website. And I really like this channel. This guy just he just took an interest in China. He's an American guy. He's kind of got a news reporter voice / David Spade sort of personality going on. So he's kind of funny, kind of quirky, and kind of even looks like David Spade a little bit in a weird way. Same sort of gestures and mannerisms, but there's something comfy about his YouTube channel. I like to listen to it a lot at work, and he basically just dives into all things China, and I love that. I became really interested in China. Jessica and I went on a cruise there last fall. We went to we flew to Beijing and then to Hong Kong, then took a cruise to Vietnam, Thailand, Singapore, and then we connected back through Chengdu. And when I really realized the scale of China, you think China is just kind of like this other country that's kind of just a big country with a bunch of people. But if you've ever zoomed in on Google Maps to just kind of get a cluster of cities, several hundred miles, of map, and there's, it's kind of peppered with cities, much like it would be in the United States. And it would be in the United States, if you zoomed out and looked at Texas, it would be like San Antonio, Dallas, Fort Worth, Austin, Houston, and then like a couple of smaller cities here and there. China is like, every single one of those little smaller cities are like 1 million people, 2 million people,
Exactly.
3 million
Billions
people,
of people there.
1.5 million people, 4 million people. And these are like no-name cities that you've never even heard of in your entire life. I mean, China is crazy how many huge cities there are there. It's insane. I didn't realize that until I kind of was looking into it. And I was thinking, I was like, my God, like if they really did harness the free markets, that would be, it could be very good. It could be very bad. It's one or the other. And so anyways, I started doing more research on China and I found this guy's YouTube channel and I really like it. And he red-pilled me a little bit on this trade war situation. And this video is about a year old, but it's still relevant today because he provides all the context about the trade war. And about the Chinese finally getting accepted into the World Trade Organization and then promptly violating all of everything that they agreed to. So China has been lying and violating the agreements of the World Trade Organization while also at the same time screaming victim. And it was then that I realized that this is what Trump is reacting to. So it's an entertaining audio clip. Check out the guy's YouTube channel if you find it interesting. And hopefully it's informative as well.
All right, man. So the entire length of the clip is 12 minutes and 33 seconds. Luke and I will go to break for the typical 7 to 10 minutes. So give us 7 to 10 minutes of real time. Enjoy this. It's really good stuff, dear listener. We'll be back at you before you know it.
Uncensored, it's time for the blame game. Hi, welcome to China Uncensored. I'm your host, Chris Chappell. The U.S.-China trade conflict has been heating up in July, like a New York City apartment without air conditioning. I would know. President Trump put tariffs on $34 billion worth of Chinese goods, and the Chinese Communist Party retaliated by doing the same thing to American goods. Why the tariffs in the first place? As U.S. Trade Representative Robert Lighthizer put it, the tariffs are proportionate and responsive to forced technology transfer and intellectual property theft by the Chinese. In other words, the Chinese regime was cheating, and the tariffs aim to balance that out. It's like a golf handicap, except instead of taking a handicap because your opponent is better at golf, you do it because your opponent cheats at golf. And anyway, with the Chinese regime putting its own tariffs on American goods, that kind of defeats the purpose of the U.S. tariffs, right? Well, don't worry, because Trump has threatened even more U.S. tariffs. They would tax imports on a whopping $200 billion worth of Chinese goods, which is smart when you think about it, because China doesn't even buy $200 billion worth of American goods in a year. So, in order for China to retaliate with equal tariffs, they'd actually have to buy more American goods than ever before. It's a foolproof plan. Of course, there are other ways the Chinese regime could retaliate. No. They know they can't win that kind of war. So, they've chosen a different tactic. Blame the U.S. for being a horrible, no-good bully.
They are just a trade bully. They are hurting the global value chain.
And you wouldn't hit a guy with glasses, right? Yes, China is a major victim of trade protectionism, according to Chinese state-run media. Don't worry, though, because the trade war is going to hurt the U.S. more than China, according to Chinese state-run media. I know that makes it sound like the U.S. is going to be the victim, and that's true, as long as you remember that China is still actually the biggest victim here, okay? Actually, that sounds like a great idea for a reality TV show. The U.S. versus China. Who is the biggest victim? Again, remember, it's China. And that's why Chinese officials announced on Monday that they had filed a complaint to the World Trade Organization against the U.S. over the proposed new tariffs. Meanwhile, Chinese state media have launched a campaign to show the world how China is actually the country everyone should do business with. Multinational firms hail China's global role as a trade partner. And China and the EU agree to support free trade, hint, hint. So is China really the best trading partner? And is the U.S. to blame for starting a trade war? Well, to answer those questions, let's take a time machine back to 2001, a simpler time when Harry Potter was still innocent, when the coolest phone you could buy looked like this, and when China was admitted to the World Trade Organization, or WTO. At the time, hopes were high that China would embrace our rules-based system of international trade. Chinese authorities promised they would play fair. And really, how could you not trust a face like this? Just because the Chinese dictator was illegally throwing Chinese dissidents in jail without due process and torturing them. That doesn't mean he wouldn't respect the laws of other nations, right? And anyway, Chinese officials at the time totally promised not to do unfair stuff, like forcing foreign companies to turn over key technologies in exchange for market access, or artificially blocking Hollywood movies from screening in the Chinese market, or giving subsidies to factories to help them outcompete foreign companies, or, well, the list goes on. But this report, titled False Promises, the Yawning Gap Between China's WTO Commitments and Practices, says, well, it's called False Promises, so what do you expect it to show? Did China live up to its WTO commitments? Looks like no, 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 and no. Okay, but things are getting better, right? According to the report, also no. If anything, China's aggressive innovation mercantilism has grown stronger in recent years. Mercantilism is an aggressive trade policy of intense government meddling in a nation's economy, with the intention of making that country's economy stronger at the expense of other trading partners. Mercantilism has fallen out of vogue over the last several hundred years because of its nasty tendency to cause not just trade wars, but also actual wars. This study, titled Economic Nationalism: From Mercantilism to World War II, concludes that economic nationalism tends to make peace more precarious and conflict more likely. In fact, one of the reasons the WTO was set up was to give countries a forum to resolve trade disputes peacefully. But, as the False Promises report says, China has simply failed to fully comply with its WTO accession commitments and membership requirements. But even worse is the fact that Chinese economic and trade policies increasingly reject or undermine the foundational tenets and principles upon which the WTO, and indeed globalization, is based. Not that multinational firms shouldn't hail China's global role, according to state-run media. It's just that its global role has been to undermine the very rules global trade is based on. For example, China has been manipulating its currency and using export subsidies to run up a massive global trade surplus. Its surplus with the U.S. alone is hundreds of billions of dollars per year. By the way, when American politicians pitched the idea of China being in the WTO, they promised China's trade surplus would look more like this blue line, where the trade surplus eventually balances out at zero. Boy, that did not happen. The False Promises report says that China continues to develop a robust set of mercantilist policies, virtually all of which violate the spirit, if not the letter, of the World Trade Organization's laws. Now, if you think that report is just making things up to criticize China, well, it turns out the Chinese regime's policy is actually outlined in its own strategic plans, like this 2006 plan by China's State Council. It reveals that Chinese policymakers intentionally violated WTO rules by restricting Chinese markets for advanced technology, limiting it to Chinese companies. But they also exploited the same WTO rules to get Chinese technology companies unfettered access to global markets. The U.S. has filed 22 WTO complaints against China since 2001. Of course, the U.S. isn't perfect. China has filed a dozen cases against the U.S. and, well, everyone complains about each other in the WTO. That's kind of what it's for.
All right, welcome back to episode number 40 of HSP. What'd you think of that audio clip, Russ?
I thought it was God tier, man. I will say it's a little bit basic, you know. I think that these are things that we already knew, but he lays it out so well with data that it's God tier, man, and it's very educational. I learned a lot, man. Dude. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I really like him. I just kind of let it play in the background when I'm at work.
Yeah, and context to this trade war that I think we can now officially call this a trade war that we find ourselves in at the current moment is really important, and he really does lay out the facts of China's abusive trade policies. And this is also kind of getting a little bit sticky militarily in terms of what's going on in the Spratly Islands and their military imperialism over there, their relationship with Taiwan. And things are getting kind of tense as well, but I do happen to know in one point that he did not make, and I'm sure that we cut it off a little bit early. We played about 8 minutes of it in total at break. China is sucking it up because of these tariffs right now. They truly are, right? So you could make the argument that this will work effectively as well with Mexico. We're just going to have to see. But China is suffering economically. They need things like United States soybeans to feed their 1.5 billion, or is it 2 billion now population in China? I think it's actually 2 billion, man. You know?
I think it's more than that. Oh, hold on. Let me look it up. I'm going to fact check real quick.
All right. Very good. So anyways, they have embargoed US 1.38.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds about right. So they've embargoed things like United States soybeans and stuff, and our soybean farmers in the Midwest are sucking it up because of it. They were dependent upon that market, right? Well, China needs that food more than we need money, right? And that's the simple fact of the matter. They cannot produce enough food to feed themselves. Not only that, they are suffering GDP hits, but China always prints inflated GDP numbers, so you never can really get a look into what's truly going on in the Chinese economy, because it's cooked books. That's just the bottom line. So, but anyway, I expect that this trade war will be settled. I think it's going to take some time. It's going to take some patience, but it's going to be settled, I think.
Yeah, I bet China's probably trying to wait until Trump either gets reelected or not.
That does seem to be what's going on, is that they're trying to push the ball downfield. But like what has happened that they don't realize, they think that the Blob Party is going to get control back once Trump is gone. I'm not certain that's necessarily true. You've got Ted Cruz talking about China, like in that clip that we played in HSP 38, about how absolutely hostile of a power they are and how they have to be brought down a little bit. So, in other words, my argument is this: Trump has shifted the Overton window against, not in China's interests, very well. And I don't think that consciousness is going anywhere. The cat's out of the bag. People are aware of how we've been stolen from by China. So, we'll see. But I think it's a bad gamble that they're making to try to outlive Trump. I think it's a bad gamble.
Yeah.
Just me. So.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that we've been stolen from. They're just...
Well, they have objectively definitely stolen intellectual property.
Yeah, but that's not trade though. That's theft.
True. Yeah. True.
That's just theft. And you don't solve that with trade war. You just solve that with enforcing laws and banning products.
Banning products. Yeah.
But engaging in the trade war. I just, if they're going to be idiots and ratchet up tariffs on our products, you could say, well, it harms our markets. Well, it harms their own markets a lot more than it does ours.
Exactly. Exactly.
So I just don't worry about it. I'm like, literally whatever. I don't care. I would have free trade with everybody. And if they want to be morons and tariff their own people for whatever reason, I don't care. It's bad for them. And that's all it is. It's bad for them. It's bad for us too, but it's bad for them primarily. And I wouldn't even think about it. I would just let markets react to stupidity of other countries. That's it.
Yeah. We'll see what happens. But, there is a malaise growing over the U.S. financial market. The Dow is down 3.12% in the month of May. That's kind of bad. The other indices are down by like 2.5. yeah, we're feeling the pain a little bit, but they're going to feel the hunger, like hungry stomachs. Trump, no pun intended. Well, actually, pun intended. Trump, economic hardship by far. And so, yeah, your point is well taken. Yeah.
All right, dude. Are we updates, corrections, feedback now?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Well, updates. I don't really have any updates. Correction. Do you have updates? We'll move on to corrections.
No, not really. Not really. Luke and I are looking at other platforms, other audio platforms. We're working on it. We'll get to it. We are going to expand our footprint in the coming months. And that's about the only update. That's not really an update yet, but when it becomes an update, we'll let you know.
Yeah, for sure. Corrections. I don't really have a correction. I had somebody who was listening to the show. This person's in the finance industry, and she was telling me, she was asking me about something when we were talking about Bernie's inheritance tax proposal. And I'm looking for this comment right here. Okay. And so she said, okay, so she says, okay, but you gave some backstory, quote, if you die today currently, then estate taxes from 0 to 10K are taxed at, and then end quote. Then you said, so if you have 1 million today, then the government takes 400,000. The way you said it all, it makes it seem like today's laws have the brackets, not Bernie's proposals. So I don't know if that's what I actually said. I didn't go back and listen to it, but what I was trying to say that is under the future law, if you have $10 million today and you die, then under the future law, this is what it would be. So I don't really consider that a correction, but maybe I should have clarified that a little bit more.
Yeah, it's a fair point.
Yeah. And then I said, okay, well, what is the current estate tax law? Because this individual knows. So she says, under current estate tax law, a single person can exempt the first 11 million of their wealth. Anything above 11 million will be taxed at 50%. If it's a couple, then they can exempt the first 22 million for their joint gross estate. So really, Bernie is talking about lowering that from 11 million to 3.5 million. And then just having brackets above that.
Man, that is God tier information. Thank you, dear listener. That's fantastic. That's great. It's good to know.
Yeah, for sure. So anyways, that's it for me.
Good feedback. Very concise. Yeah. Well, it was a rough week for this pimp right here. All right. So first of all, I told y'all about the iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and TuneIn. All three. All right. I got shouted down about why do you say 3 when it's 4? Okay. All right. Yep. Corrected. Sorry about that. Both of us got shouted out about Ariel Helwani, Luke. We said Selwani. We couldn't remember his name. And okay, you know what, dear listener? You're absolutely correct. Luke and I know exactly who Ariel Helwani is. We've watched him for years. Luke and I have both watched UFC for years, and Ariel Helwani does God-tier coverage of the UFC. We can't... We're not computers up in here. We can't recall information right on the spot perfectly all the time, but it was a mistake. And you were right to call us out, and we actually got called out twice on that by 2 different people. So dang. All right. Got another piece of feedback. All right, and let me find the comment here. Okay, I'm going to paraphrase it. It said that basically, all right, when Luke and I were talking about declassification, that I agreed with Nate about declass was overdue, and it was too late. And then Luke came up and said, okay, well, I think that this is exactly what Trump intended to do. And I said, yes, I agree. All right. So they tried to raise this, why are you contradicting yourself argument to me. I understand why you thought that's what I was saying, dear listener. I am saying both are true, that it was overdue and that this is exactly the way Trump wanted to play it. I should have explained that a little bit further. To me, it is a mistake. Okay. And it also happens to be the fact that this is exactly what Trump wanted to do. So I was trying to argue both sides of the coin. I should have made that clearer, but thank you for calling me out and thank you for keeping us sharp. Okay. Now I have a self-correction right here. Okay. And it is this. It was Janet Reno who appointed John Bull Durham to go investigate Bob Mueller in the Whitey Bulger case in Boston. It was not the God-tiered Attorney General William Barr. Okay. Now, I got it right in bots when I did bots, thoughts, and drops number 6, I think, right? I got it entirely wrong on HSP number 39. I am glad I caught that myself. So HSP boys will keep ourselves sharp in addition to you keeping us sharp, dear listener. But it's 3 pretty brutal corrections for the week. My apologies. We're going to right this ship, and it's actually harmful to our accuracy rating, Luke. I'm going to put us down at about 98.8. So there's that.
All right, that's fair enough.
Yeah, but that's all I got for corrections, man. You know, we're going to make mistakes here and there, dear listener, and we are passionate about being correct. So thank you very much for the feedback. Thank you.
All right, man. Well, what do you say we jump into GBS? How about that?
Yeah, man. Perfect way to celebrate number 40. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
All right. So
you want to tell them about GBS?
Well, I feel a little bit like I'm robbing you of this because, man, Luke found this GBS. Now, I knew about it, to be fair, but it happened 2 weeks ago. It was a debate hosted by Charles Godtier Payne on the Fox Business Channel, which is a debate of the merits of capitalism versus socialism. Now, Luke, have you listened to any of this audio? I've not listened to a bit of it.
I listened to the very beginning just to make sure it was okay.
Okay.
And it seemed to be good, but I've only listened to about 1 or 2 minutes.
Okay. Good. All right.
I think you'll probably want to jump in to straight up like minute 5, something like that.
Okay. I mean, first of all, man, I can't prevail upon yourself, but man, it's number 40. I'm going to take a shot here real quick, man. I've got one poured up, so I'm taking a shot. So, yeah. All right, bottoms up, man. Cheers. Number 40, brother. Number 40.
Cheers, man.
Oh, all right. Well, so we're going to jump in straight at minute number 5. Now, this is sectioned into 4 different parts, dear listener. So I'm going to have to negotiate this a little bit. Looks like they're about 15-minute bits each, right? So we've got segment 1 here, and I am hovering right over 5 minutes and 15 seconds, and I already know it's good. I can just tell. So you want to do it, man? You want to do it?
Yeah, let's do it.
It's coming at you, dear listener.
Top that have means to control the agenda for the rest of us in this country. We want a government that's for the people, by the people, truly.
What would you say to Herman in the sense that he started out in the 1940s in Georgia? We know what the circumstances were like, and he was able to propel himself to a
Herman
place.
Sugar
Does that
Cane
not
in the
exist
house.
anymore for someone your age?
I believe that millennials are entering a really difficult economic system. I congratulate Mr. Herman for his successes, but I do think that people shouldn't have to put their safety and security at risk in order to achieve the American dream.
Allow me to respond to that, please. Because that's
Wait,
another
hold on, Russ.
Yeah.
Did we even explain what this is?
Yeah.
This GBS?
Yeah, we did. You know,
Okay.
it's capitalism versus socialism. I didn't know the panel, man. We got Herman Sugar Cane in the house, and he's like, please allow me to respond. And so Herman Sugar Cane is going to drop the business right now, and I know it, man. I know it. So,
Yeah. Should we respond to what she said, or should we listen to what he says?
Should we do it, or should we let Herman Sugar Cane do it? I think.
Well, let's hear what he has to say.
Okay,
and then we can respond.
Yeah,
to both.
that's a good tactic. All right. Herman Sugar Cane in the house. Here it comes, dear listener.
fallacy in the thinking. Never in the history of the world has a socialist model worked. I don't care which one. Okay? Now, allow me to give one example. Most people want to point to Venezuela and then they're in denial. They want to point to Cuba and they're in denial. Have you ever heard of the USSR, United Soviet Socialist Republic? They tried socialism for 70 years and it failed.
Right.
And when they finally figured it out, the 15 countries went their separate ways.
Richard, though, you've taught all over the world.
Okay.
I mean, have you seen examples of
Pretty
social...
god tier, man. This is the argument that Rush makes about millennials not abhorring socialism because they did not live under the specter of the threat of the Soviet Union. And that's what Herman Sugar Cane just said quite correctly, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, this is the classic response. Socialism doesn't work.
Yeah.
This is the response that everybody on the right gives.
Yeah.
Ben Shapiro does it.
We do it.
I mean, no, I don't do it. We don't do it.
Yeah, we have. Yeah,
We-
we have.
Well, I mean, it's observably true that it doesn't
Right.
work, but that's not the primary argument upon which we rest.
True. Now
Because
that is true.
a pragmatic, and this is why it's not a winning argument. This is why it hasn't yet won, and it never will win, because it's pragmatism. Because the thing is what is the left's response to this every time you say it's never worked? We've tried it this way, we've tried it that way, we've tried it this way.
We've not tried the right version of it yet. That's all. We've not tried the right version.
That's exactly their response.
Yeah,
they're like,
every time.
Oh, well, we just came up. Hey, what do you know? We just came up with a new model. Let's try that. And this is, earlier when I was talking about getting into these like deep philosophical subjects of like inductive and deductive reasoning, you have to induce that socialism doesn't work because of some higher level principle. And the reason it doesn't work is because it is against man's nature. Man's nature is to think, to be free. And the way you know that is because that's how we survive in nature, is that we think, we create spears, and you use carved bones to create weapons and, build huts and caves. And then we, later figured out how to domesticate animals and build farms. We had the agricultural revolution. Then we figured out how to build huge homes and castles. And then we figured out how to harness oil as a natural resource, and so on and so forth. And we did all of that using our brain. That is our competitive advantage in nature. It's how we survive, and it's how we flourish. And all of that is observably true, and you induce that. And then when you come back down the knowledge tree and you start thinking about, okay, well, our competitive advantage in nature is our ability to think. Okay, so morally, it's to think in your own interest as a biological organism to survive. And to survive as a human doesn't just mean eat enough to not die. It means to survive qua human being, it means to be happy. That's what survival means, is being happy. It doesn't mean just not dying, eating enough to not die. It means being happy. So when I say like continued and ongoing action to pursue survival as a human being, I mean being happy. And then, therefore, what sort of a political system do we need to make sure that we can live in a social environment and allow that to be, we need something that protects everybody from everybody else. We need private property rights because of the reason that it is through your mind that you create value. You need to be able to keep the fruits of that labor. This is what capitalism is. And if you go against that, it's against human nature. And therefore, it's immoral. That's why socialism doesn't work, because it is against human nature. It is against the very thing that sets us apart from other animals. And the deductive argument is the Charlie Kirk, the Herman Cain, the Ben Shapiro, all these people. They all do the same thing, which is a deductive argument, which is, you tried it X way, you tried it Y way, you tried it Z way, and that didn't work. So therefore, it must just not work. And then what does the left do? Oh no, we just came up with a new way.
Yeah.
Why don't we try that one too?
Yeah.
And so you're just playing whack-a-mole with these things.
Well, it's true, but like what they also do, and just to throw this in here, right? They throw up in unfair and intellectually dishonest ways socialism in terms of like the Nordic countries, right? Well, it works over in there, but these are not socialist countries. They are welfare and nanny states. Yes, that's correct, but they are not socialist countries. They are capitalist countries. They depend on the oil industry for their existence, right? So like...
Norway does, but Norway does. But Denmark and Sweden they tax their rich way less than we do in the United States. We have a way more progressive tax system than they do.
That is true.
Sweden was, and you're absolutely right. They throw this up. This is not deductive argumentation. This is just intellectual dishonesty through and through. They don't know history. They don't understand the history of the Nordic countries.
Right.
Because if they did, they would know that Sweden was the richest country in Europe in 1870, and they had free markets because they had free markets.
Right.
And then right around 1950s, they were the wonder of Europe in terms of how rich they were and productive they were. And then in the 1950s, they were like, let's do socialism. They started to adopt socialism. I think it was 97. They economically collapsed. And they've been privatizing industries. They have way less. There are things that European, that Swedish entrepreneurs create. They can't sell into the United States because our consumer protection laws, Consumer Protection Agency, the CPA laws, are way too stringent. So there's people inventing stuff in other countries they can't sell into the United States of all countries. They can't sell into it because
True.
our laws are too stringent. We're too regulated.
True.
So, like this idea that the Nordic model, so the model that's moving away from socialism and towards capitalism, that's your model.
Yeah,
that's just pure intellectual dishonesty. I don't know what this guy's about to say.
Yeah, it certainly is. And by the way, this is the Bernie Sanders argument. Yet another thing that got stolen from a slip of the tongue by yourself, Luke. Now everybody around the right-wing commentariat is saying Bernie Sanders after you made this just accidental slip of the tongue. But this is the Bernie Sanders argument. That's exactly what he says. We haven't tried it.
All their arguments. Yeah.
We haven't tried it like the Nordic countries. I'm only advocating socialism in terms of how the Nordic countries do it. And yet the Prime Minister of Denmark shouts down Bernie in the 2016 campaign like, yo, stop calling us socialists. We're not socialists. We're capitalists, straight up.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, if I were Herman Cain and I wanted to respond to what that girl said, I would have just said, like, by what standard are you measuring the difficulty that millennials have in terms of an economic state?
Well, okay, I can tell you exactly what she would say. She would say, oh my God, we have all this student debt. We have all of this debt that we have to plow through, and we're just tired of it. We want the government to forgive our debts. That's what she would say, right? Saddled by debt, which was self-imposed, if I may say, right? But
totally.
What the argument really truly is that the reason that you are saddled by debt, Miss whatever 18-year-old millennial, whatever your name is, the reason you're saddled by debt right now is that free market competition was removed from the student loan market and given over entirely to the government in an entirely guaranteed way. And this is why college fees raised so dramatically as they did.
And not only that, but education is basically, education is not private tax.
True.
I mean, the idea that they want to fix a problem with government, and then they don't want to acknowledge that it's government that created it.
Exactly.
In the first place.
Exactly so.
But I mean, I would have responded to her. I mean, even if she said that, I'd be like, well, we're saddled with student, and they go on with these absurd, ridiculous little, polemical argumentation, these sorts of things, because they love their polemics. They're just all about their polemics.
Don't they though?
I would just say, like, okay, you did not answer the question. You have demonstrated that you are incapable of thinking for yourself and thinking about your future. So school has failed you. Life lessons have failed you. You aren't capable of thinking about your future and what that's going to cost. But that's a separate subject. Now, answer the question.
Right.
Explain to me the state of entering into our economy as a millennial. Explain to me why that's difficult.
Right.
Because there's lots of millennials that don't think that's there's lots of millennials playing sand beach volleyball at Google, making $120,000 a year.
Exactly.
I don't think they're having a particularly hard time right now.
Yeah. You know, Rush brought something up, and I was listening to it in the car, and so I can't recall the exact source. It's not John Podhoretz. It's somebody like that, though, man, like one of these National Review kind of boomer, never Trumper type of intellectuals who threw down the argument for capitalism in terms of this, and I cannot believe we're talking about this because I want to tell you about it. And it's this, Luke, right? It's that, really capitalism is, configured in terms of selfishness when the fact of the matter is that the exact opposite is true. Capitalism is the ultimate selflessness, and there's a reason for that. That is because in order to make money, you have to produce a good or service for someone else. You always have to keep the other in mind in order for you to gain. Whereas socialism is the exact opposite. It's about nothing more than what can I gain from the government for myself before everybody else gets it. What do I get?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
this is God tier argument, man.
Yeah, I've heard Ben Shapiro make this argument on, I think it was Dave Rubin, where he calls it forced altruism. That's what he calls capitalism.
Forced altruism? Explain.
Yeah. Well, altruism.
I know what altruism is, but like, what does he mean by forced altruism?
Yeah, but for dear listener, we should probably just explain. Okay. Yeah, this was a term coined by Auguste Comte, who said he defined altruism as is basically just the moral principle of serving others before or above yourself, right? So you come second to others. That's what altruism means.
Okay, I've got a problem with Ben Shapiro's argument right from the very beginning. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, but it's this argument that, well, like, under capitalism, you can't think about just yourself. You have to think about others and what they need, and then you have to serve their needs. Now, this is a very interesting sleight of hand, because that's true, but that doesn't make it selfless. It doesn't make it altruistic.
Absolutely.
It makes it selfish. This is why people hate capitalism. This is why they hate markets, because you cannot divorce personal gain from a profitable transaction. You cannot do it. It's either profitable and selfish or not.
Yeah. Okay. So that's I think that the argument that was being made, and I happen to agree, I think that like maybe going forward, we need to like abandon this Randian selfishness trope, right? Because it is being used against us right now. We need to reconfigure it in terms of this. In order for me to prosper, I must serve others' interests, and I will profit by doing that, right? But it's not altruism whatsoever. It is self-gain, yes, but let's don't call it selfishness anymore. Let's call it mutual benefit, which we always argue in these hallowed halls every single episode, 1 through 40, right up until now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the argument is that selfishness, the term selfishness, is being used against us quite correctly, I would say.
Yeah, this is, I have thought so much about this, and I've had so many different conversations with various people about this. They're just like, wow, well, I hate the word selfishness. Why would you use that? You need to rebrand it. And like Rand had a good answer on this. Somebody asked her, is like, why use the word selfishness when that has so many connotations? And she was like, for the same reason you don't like it.
Yeah.
And I didn't really get that at first. It took me a long time.
I entirely get it, but here we are 30 years later and it's not worked. It's not worked. So she is a God tier philosopher. She's not a good marketer.
Yeah, but I mean, if you came up with a new word, right? Something that's like, you know, all nice and cuddly and it's like, oh, this is a friendly way to put it. Like mutual benefit, right?
Yeah.
Who could not like that? And they're like, well, what does that mean in the context of a marketplace? Well, it means that when I go to the marketplace, I take something that I've produced and I trade it for money, and the amount of money I'm trading it for is worth more to me than what I've produced. Oh, why would you do that? Well, I'm trying to make my life better. Oh, well, you're just selfish.
I mean, yeah.
So you can't escape it. You just can't escape. You have to fight it head on. You just can't escape it.
I understand the point. Yeah, that's a fair point, as a matter of fact. That's a fair point, you know. But like nonetheless, at least in the first stage, present it in terms of something like mutual benefit. You know what I mean? Yeah. And
there's also context. I mean, I see a lot of objectivists who run around there and they're just like selfishness, altruism, selfishness, altruism, you know, and there's context, right? Like I don't use these terms on the show because it's just pointless. You know, it's just going to alienate people. They don't really understand. You have to have like an honest, long sit down conversation with this. I mean, there is a dear listener. About every 6 months, he writes me an email saying the same thing. And I know you, dear listener, you know who you are because we've had this conversation recently over email. And about every 6 months, he sends me the same email, a new article saying something in different words, but saying the same thing. And we hash this out over email about every 6 months. And, you know, so I recognize that when you use these very difficult to stomach terms, it just turns people off because they just, there's more context and, you know, but at the same time, I'm not going to back down. I mean, a marketplace is a place of people engaging in self-interested activities. And when you try to do like Ben Shapiro does, or this person in this article, which is like, oh, well, really what it is really you're just serving others. Well, no, not really. That's dishonest. Like it's people trying to make their own lives better. And that's good. That's good for everybody. There's nothing wrong with that. And that's precisely the point, is that there's nothing wrong with it. You know, this is this conceptual package dealing where the left is trying to inject something into that transaction. Like, oh, it's for mutual self-interest, which is true. It's mutual benefit. That's true. It's mutual self-interest. That's true. It's all of those things. But the leftists, what they do is they try to inject this sort of implicit moral evaluation that's bad. Therefore, we need socialism to sort of, the softer people would be like, we need socialism to kind of like tamp that down a bit, soften it a bit. The more staunch people would say that's just totally immoral and we need to move to a system entirely composed of altruism and selflessness and these sorts of things. And, my argument to those people is like, why is there anything wrong with me going into a marketplace so I can make my life better? Why does that make me a bad person? And they will have absolutely no answer to that. And no one ever has had an answer, a reasonable answer to that.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I don't disagree. I agree 100%. I do think that it is a propaganda war that is being lost entirely, right?
Totally.
Yeah, I had a very spirited debate, right, with a coworker just yesterday, right? And we got into the virtues of individualism versus the virtues of a collective, right? And I don't want to rehash the entire debate, like how we got down into it and all this kind of stuff. This guy is a total socialist, Luke, total socialist. I'm a total capitalist, and I'm kind of outing myself a little bit too much to him as the capitalist that I am, right? But I do respect his individuality to express this nonsense, and he respects mine, right? We have spirited conversations back and forth. We exchange ideas, right? So what it came down to, at the end of the day, I was like, okay, describe to me the collective of which you're a part. What is it? And he couldn't. He couldn't.
Of course not.
He couldn't describe it, right?
Yeah.
So that it's just a straight up abstract mob is what they literally defend at this point in time. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So-
totally.
Yeah. And so,
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I mean, I just want to offer like one brief comment about, this propaganda war and it's being lost. I mean, of course it has, precisely because everybody's trying to dodge the real heart of the issue, which is that there's nothing wrong with a marketplace being full of people going there for mutual benefit in their own interest. Nobody will. You have Ben Shapiro running around forced altruism. You have other people. Oh no! It's not people engaging in self-interested activities. No, that's not it. It's selflessness.
I have a big problem with that. I have a big problem with that.
Yeah,
it certainly is not selflessness. Yeah.
This is why we've been losing the war. This is why capitalism loses. It's this. The right views it as this. They view it as like, well, capitalism, they view it as this. Socialism sounds really good, but it doesn't work. Capitalism works, but it sounds awful. That is why we lose. Capitalism works and it sounds great. That's how we need to approach. That's how you have to frame your thinking around this.
Yeah.
Socialism
I totally agree
sounds
with you.
awful and is awful in practice. Capitalism sounds great and is great in practice.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I think that this is another reframing that is necessary in this debate about the merits of capitalism versus socialism. It has to be entirely reframed and maintained. I agree with you.
I mean,
100%.
the height of this is George W. Bush, like, oh, we need to save capitalism from itself.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
True.
Oh, thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you, supreme
Thanks,
defender
bro.
of individual rights and property rights.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Two separate trails to the same inevitable conclusion. We have reached it. Yes.
Indeed. Do you want to do one more drop or you want to call it?
I kind of want to do one more drop, but we're running a little bit long right now. And that last shot, it's effective, It's your call, man. So
it worked.
It worked. Yes.
Unlike socialism, that shot worked. That was a capitalist shot.
It was a capitalist shot, boy.
All right. Well, I got a little juice in me left. Why don't we do one more and I'll see if I can BTFO somebody. Let's jump to this is a 4-part debate.
Yes,
dear
sir.
listener. Let's jump to part 2.
All right. It is 11 minutes and 4 seconds in the context of there was 15 minutes before And so we're at about 15 minutes in. How far do we go into this 11 minutes? What would you say? Another five, something like that?
We're in the part 2 video, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Yeah, 11 minutes, whatever. It's fine.
All right. I'm at, all right. In total running time terms, this is going to be about minute 17. I think it's going to be good. It's 5 minutes into part 2. Luke, you down with that before I do it? You down?
Yeah. Let's do it, dude.
All right, here we go.
Has done for people what we have done for people. No society has created the opportunities and provided a rags to riches type of existence for as many people as our system. Is it flawed? Yes. Do we have extremes? Absolutely. Do we overdo it and we have the Enrons or the Tycos and examples of people who abuse the privilege? Absolutely.
Apologizing.
And we regulate that and we police that. And we want to make sure that we have better standards for medicine and food. All that comes with it. Comes out of your taxes too, by the way. But that is an obligation, I think, that capitalism happily meets.
Right. And of course, it all gets down to the fact none of these systems are perfect because I think human beings are not perfect.
Right.
I want to go to Donna for our next question. Donna?
Why are Democrat politicians pro-socialism and glamorizing it when they have seen throughout history the destruction that comes from it? There's a reason why people are fleeing other countries for the opportunity to live in America.
You know, Bianca, I want to pose that to you. I've studied the African nations that embraced socialism upon independence. Now, there were a lot of reasons for that. They didn't, the people who colonized those countries, they looked at them as capitalists. Certainly, they didn't want to embrace that. The Soviet Union looked like it was on its way up. But I think it hurt those nations severely, set them back decades. Why has the entire Democratic Party, to a degree, embraced one form of socialism or another? Some are reluctant to say it, but Medicare for all, paying off all student debts. Do you think that that's the new party? That's going to be the new Democratic Party?
So I will just first say that I don't believe the Democratic Party is embracing socialism. That's why we have our organization,
False.
Democratic Socialists of America, which is pushing them to hold the agenda of the people and to be responsive to the issues that we care about. Neither party is serving everyday Americans.
It's because the elites on both sides benefit so much from the status quo? So you think maybe they're just giving it lip service?
I think it's just lip service. I think that they're not interested in having a real conversation. I think that they'll stifle the conversation every chance that they get.
But can't we have a conversation just about math? Money in, money out. And if you make promises that can't be paid for, eventually you run out of money, right? And I think no matter how passionate, and I don't give Republicans a pass on this, they build deficits just as, quickly as did Democrats. I just think, though, that what's incumbent upon all these candidates running for president, say, how are you going to pay for that? Because that's on you. That's on your generation. And I'm fine. I think I told Charles beforehand, as long as my Social Security is okay and you're paying into it, I'm okay with it. I got worried when I heard that the birth rate's at a 32-year low. But I think we just got to do basic math. And I don't think any of those candidates are.
Richard, I'll let you do that. But I want Bianca to respond to that, because how are all these ideas that you want how are they going to be paid for?
So I think the real question is why we're complacent with children across this country starving, with people being in massive debt coming out of school and having no choice but to.
Yeah, dude. Notice how they don't even bother answering this question of like, oh, well, it's failed so many times. Why would it succeed? It's like they just brush their like,
They Charles Payne totally changed the question. Poor audience member. Denise, who is 44 years of age, asks an honest question and gets no answer, and they go right back into this scrum of cuckery. The scrum of cuckery.
Yeah. And then, this is what AOC does this a lot. They're like, well, how are we going to pay for the Green New Deal? How are we going to pay for this? How are we going to pay for that? She goes, her answer is, how are we going to pay for the destruction of the earth?
Yeah. How are we not going to pay for it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. How are we going to pay for children dying in cages on the border? How are we going to pay for this? We figured out. That's her answer. And that's how she should respond to such bullshit questions. Cockery questions. It's not how are we going to pay for it, because that question implicitly says, okay, I morally agree with it. My concern is how are we going to pay for it? I mean, what a cucked position to even begin with.
Yeah.
If you ask how are we going to pay for that, you've already lost the debate. Just asking that question, you just lost. If you ask that question, you just lost. Never, ever, ever, ever ask that, because you buy into all of their premises. You say, I don't agree with it morally, or I don't disagree with it morally. In fact, I could agree with it. My concern is the practicality of it.
Right. Pragmatism.
And they just brush that off. They don't even care. And nor should they. This is child's play to a socialist. Who cares? What you should be saying is, why do you want to steal people's money? Why do you think that people should be forced to do things against their will?
Right.
Why do you think that?
Right.
Well, the rich in America, blah, 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 blah. You didn't answer the question. Why do you think it's moral to, at the threat of force, well, it's not at the threat, it's force, at the threat of violence.
Yeah.
Take people's things away from them. You justify that to me.
Yeah.
And then just ask them to do it, and then just stop, and then just wait.
Yeah.
And they'll feel so uncomfortable because you've just said, okay, you are holding them feet to the fire.
Yeah.
And it is fire that they're standing upon. And so all you have to do is hold their feet to it.
Indeed, sir. Indeed. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm so disappointed, man.
I'm disappointed by our peers,
so
man.
Pathetic.
Yeah, I
It's
know,
so
man.
Pathetic. This is why we do Grab Bag Special. None of these people know how to handle these socialists. They don't know how to handle leftists. They're so pathetic. They agree morally with all of their premises, and they're just. It's like even Ben Shapiro. He's probably one of the best. He's probably one of the better people in terms of formulating arguments on his feet. And even Ben Shapiro, you can see him squirming, his way out of these things, trying to rationalize his way out of agreeing with these premises, when he really does.
Yeah. Yeah. True. Man, I have some God tier audio with Ben Shapiro. I kind of wanted to play it, man, but I didn't play it on bots, and we haven't played it on HSP, so I'm just going to send it to you. It's a little bit expiry now at this point in time, but I'll send it to you, man. He got BTFO'd on British TV. He got BTFO'd.
Oh, I saw that.
Yeah, okay,
good.
Good. Yeah. He got triggered, man. He got triggered. And, but you're absolutely correct, dude. I could not agree more. You're 100% correct.
And I mean, this is that audio clip with Ben Shapiro where he just like walks off the set. He responded to that by saying, he's like, I just wasn't prepared and blah, blah, blah. Well, here's the thing. He was not asking difficult questions. If you are a principled person and you principally, like out of principle, believe in individual rights and you believe in property rights, you don't have to prepare for a debate like that.
Right.
This is the problem with people like Ben Shapiro is they have a philosophy of canned answers. And when if one of their canned answers doesn't fit what they are trying to argue, they just get frustrated and angry and they walk off the set like Ben Shapiro did. Now, Ben Shapiro is an extremely intelligent person, so he has like a seemingly endless number of canned answers for whatever. But you have to have a philosophy of process, and not canned answer, but process, which is a hopper into which you can drop an endless number of ideas, and then you just send it through the process, and out comes an answer. And that happens with principles aligned with reality. And if you can do that, it doesn't matter who's asking you and what they're asking. I mean, you just simply may not know the facts of something, and you can just say, I don't know the facts of that situation. But when it comes to something like, why socialism has failed everywhere, you don't need to drop 1,000 different statistics and say it's failed here, it's failed there, it's failed here, it's failed there. These countries are failing. These countries did this, did that, did this.
Which is true. The deductive arguments are true. They're all true.
Which is all true. All entirely true. But that doesn't win over the minds of people. You have to rely on a philosophy of process, which is, okay, it's failed everywhere, sure. But that's not my starting place. My starting place is reality and context. and me, human beings in this context. That's my starting place. And I start there. And then once I get to my conclusion, then I look at all of the deductive arguments and see if it aligns. So you learn, and then you look at all the deductive arguments, the instantiations of proof, and see if that aligns with what you learned through inductive reasoning, which is that whole process we went through earlier with, man's nature and being free, think to live, being free to think, to act, to live, to keep your property, the fruits of your labor, all this thing, all the implications that has politically. And then you look at all of the deductive argumentation and see if that aligns. And yes, this is what it is. It fits all of it.
Yeah. Now listen, Luke, I've got to jump in here for just a second. Now, listen, we don't want to get pushback from anybody about, principled conservatism, conservative principles and all this kind of stuff. No, these are life principles, philosophical principles, which the HSP boys espouse. So don't try to come back at us like conservative principles and all this kind of stuff. No. This is reality, which we discuss here. Right.
Yeah,
this
principles are not just something that like what's that movie, Russ, with the girl? It starts out where she rides horse. It's an old movie, like from the 80s. And she rides horses.
I don't know, man.
Maybe, yeah. And at the beginning, like some guy tells her to get out and she wraps her feet around the chairs, the legs of the chair, so he can't kick her out. Little blonde girl.
Yeah,
I don't
this
know.
Rings a bell. It rings a bell.
But yeah, it sounds like White Stallion. I don't know. It was like one of those movies my sister watched, and I was like, much younger than her, so I just watched it too. But yeah, I mean, a principle is not just something where you're sitting in a chair and then you just like wrap your feet around the chair and you're like, this is my principle. That's not a principle. That's just you being stubborn. A principle is something derived from the facts of reality and is something upon which you can stand and then apply to many, many different scenarios.
Yep.
So the principle of socialism being anti-human nature, you can apply that to any model of socialism. Any model a socialist comes at you with, we came up with a new model of socialism. Let's try that. You can stand on a principle and say, nope, for all of these parent reasons, it's not going to work. I came up with a new model. Nope, that one also doesn't work for all of these parent reasons because you've induced all the way up, like all the way to reality. It's a very difficult process, and I still am, myself still figuring it out. But
week by week, we work through it. Week by week, man. I should have said that when we were talking about how we've grown in HSP doing these podcasts over the last 40 episodes. That's one way which I've literally grown. I am much stronger about this now than I was before we started this. I am, because I have to think about this, Now, I have one last comment, and you were talking about Ben Shapiro. And this is a great example, okay, in terms of stock issues and generic arguments. Excuse me, dear listener.
Canned answers.
Yeah, canned generic arguments to everything, right? There is, regarding that British TV interview, right, there is another element which I want to call out Ben Shapiro on right now. We're not even talking about GBS anymore, man. We should get out of here pretty quick. But nonetheless.
Yeah, we should.
Yeah, I want to call out, there is an element of arrogance here as well, as opposed to comparing Ben Shapiro to somebody who is entirely humble and not arrogant, like God-tier General William Barr, who takes the issues as they come to him and answers them, right?
Yeah, see, William Barr, in that interview, he had a process of thought.
Yeah, the law. That's it. Yeah,
he dropped it into his hopper and was like, nope. This is the way the ball bounces down the pegs, and it ends up here.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
All right, dude, let's call it for episode 40.
Yeah, man, episode number 40. Congratulations, Luke, dude. It's been a great ride and many more miles to go, dear listeners, so you believe this. And we got 1 year coming up next weekend. We're going to be in the saddle. We're going to have a good time. And Luke, man, happy 40th, brother.
Happy 40th, dude.
All right. I'll be in touch with you next week, man. You take care of yourself.
All right, sounds good, brother. You too. All right, peace.
Later.